just want to remind the people that it's been less than a month since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That doesn't matter. We can start hating players again, apparently. What a weird day on social media yesterday. What a weird day of picking favorites. We'll get into it today here on Kincade Salciunas with Amy Fadul and for Johnny here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
I'm not a doctor. I have not examined Joel Embiid's knee, but you know that he's going to miss an extended period of time. You know he's done for the rest of the season. He could miss a lot of time next year. I mean, we're in March.
This offseason, you look at that and you say, okay, well, he's not going to be able to be traded. I don't think this is the end of him being a part of this team.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Friday morning, Philadelphia. Andrew Salciunas alongside Amy Fadul, who is in for Johnny today as Johnny continues to be in the Caribbean, not working and enjoying life.
Yep.
Must be nice. Amy, good morning.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
It is great to have you. Yesterday was a lot of fun. I had Andrew DeCecco in for the entire show because Connor is also on vacation.
Good old golf.
Some of us, like Brendan Gunn, Haley, myself, we work every day. We're here.
That's how y'all roll.
Grinding. That's what it's just what we do.
Listen.
There's no time off. There is no off season.
There is no, and isn't that the truth though?
1% better every day.
Eagles.
Isn't that what Jalen Hurts says? You just got to get 1% better every single day. It is what it is. Keep the main thing the main thing. Like that's what the show's all. That's what the show's all about. So, Amy, yesterday was a weird day.
Yes, it was.
I had the luxury of being live on the air as the weird day was happening.
As it's unfolding
and
on
so,
tweets.
You know Andrew DeCecco. Andrew DeCecco is like football guy.
Yes.
Right? X's and O's, breakdowns, film study, you name it. And I was excited to talk to him about like combine stuff.
Right. Let's look at and see who's out there in free agency and who they could go for in the draft.
And then I see Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tweet. Over. And over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh!
Now,
they were not subtle.
No, they were not, and I was unaware of some of the things that went down. You would think we would be on top of absolutely everything because we do what we do for a living, but sometimes off-field beefs and issues and who's dating this person, who's dating that person. I miss these things sometimes, and I missed the Darius Slay podcast that led to the reaction from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And so later on in the show, we will kind of break it all down. Instead of breaking down film, we're going to break down a podcast. And we're going to break down what Darius Slay said that led to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being very upset online and how he handled himself online yesterday. But here's where I want to start the show before we go down that rabbit hole. I want to ask you, Amy, Gunnar, you and I kind of talked about this after the show yesterday on our post-show headlines that we do on YouTube every single day. But I also want to ask the audience two questions. Number one is more of the big picture, the more blanket question. What makes us pick and choose players that we love and players that we don't rock with? And I'll get to Darius Slay in a second because he's somebody that people just don't rock with in this city, which confuses the hell out of me. But what makes us pick and choose players that we love and players that we don't? Like, Amy, you've been covering the Sixers. You know the process days.
Oh, yeah.
There were people that liked T.J. McConnell more than Ben Simmons. And this was before Ben Simmons became the Ben Simmons that we know today.
You don't have to go back that far. How many people rock with Paul Reed? They were devastated.
Yeah.
They thought, you cannot let that guy go. We love
Tony
Paul
Bradley, a backup center that could score a little bit. And when they traded him, you thought they got rid of Prime Wilt.
Dario Saric.
And I understand some of the process guys because that was kind of like
it was kind of like our guy.
The Phoenix is rising from the ashes. We're
we
finally
were with
here.
These guys.
But there's other players like a baseball roster's got 25 guys, and we will love Garrett Stubbs more than we will love JT Realmuto. Why? Is it because Realmuto plays more, so that means there's more of a chance to upset you as a fan? I don't know. I'm upset a lot when Garrett Stubbs plays. I'm upset a lot when Andrew Knapp used to be the backup catcher, starting catcher at times for the Phillies. Like, I get upset by poor play. I am somebody that's very simple. I'm an easy man, Amy. If you're good, I like you.
Yep.
Are you putting forth effort? Okay, I like you. Are you helping my team win? I like you. There's a lot of stuff that goes on off the field with every single athlete that I just ignore most of the time. obviously there are certain things where I draw a line. Not a big fan of domestic violence, racism, and other things.
Just general trouble.
Yeah. That stuff, all right, you do that stuff, yeah, you're not okay in my books. But if you are a normal human being that plays well
and good at your job
and tries hard, I like you as a player. And that's all it is for me. But there are people that have like reasons why they love certain players. Oh, he's a Philly guy or he's not a Philly guy. Can you explain to me what are some of the things that people seem to look for in an athlete that may put them above other players where they go, that's why I'm rocking with this guy and not that guy?
Well, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head as you're explaining why you like guys. You try hard. TJ McConnell is the ultimate try-hard guy, right? Here's a guy that looks like on paper he shouldn't have really made it in the NBA.
Right.
And he's still rocking it, and he's doing quite well. There's a reason people still revere the 1993 Phillies team more than they like the 2008 Phillies team.
I know. I've had that topic on this show before.
You wonder why. I've asked people that very question, people I know that to be true for.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the 93, they're guys you could have a beer with. Yeah. You know, I can have a beer with the guys that had the trophy. I can also have a beer, but I get it. It's more relatable to them for whatever the knucklehead kind of group.
Yeah,
I guess, or however you want to characterize that team. But I think some people they need to identify with the player, and not just because he works hard or whatever else. They need to see themselves in that guy.
right.
And so that's why Ben Simmons didn't resonate as well here. You don't even have to go forward to how it ended. But he never bought in.
No.
He never wanted to be that guy, right? And so that's what I remember when Bryce Harper got here. We just wanted to look at Ben. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard to assimilate yourself here to Philadelphia.
Right. But
It really
I love Bryce Harper because he hits
He's also
home
really
runs
good.
and hits doubles and
But some
is
people
very
like him.
good.
But he wasn't always known as a good clubhouse guy.
No, I know. I the clown question, bro, and all, and the Jonathan Papelbon,
Right, so-
incident. But like the Philly Fanatic tattoo, that does nothing to me. I don't
didn't even
care.
raise to the level of exactly like people getting irate over that. And I was like,
I did not become more of a Bryce Harper fan that day. You know when I became more of a Bryce Harper fan? Bedlam at the Bank.
Yeah.
Because he sent my team
Dragging the team
basically to the World Series.
Exactly.
Like that's when I became a bigger Bryce Harper fan than I already was. Nothing else does that for me. Like him talking about, I'm going to bring a championship to Philadelphia. Yeah, I hope so. You're getting paid $330 million. Yeah. Like, I hope you bring a championship to Philadelphia. And so yesterday, we do a thing on YouTube every day after the show. It's for our digital content that we got to hit, Amy. Post-show headlines.
Yes.
It's basically the PTI format where I do 5 questions, 2 minutes each. We go through it. And Gunnar was the fill-in yesterday because Johnny's been out. And I kind of asked the same question. And you even said you like a guy like Garrett Stubbs. Like, you have an affection for Garrett Stubbs.
Yeah, when it comes to the way I view fandom, I think it's like a family tree. Like, there's this side, and it's the good vibes, and the outside stuff, like the 93 team, and then playing hard and dominating and just being a great player on the other side. And sometimes there's a mix and match of both of them. But I think it is a little bit more than just being a great player. I don't know why. It's the it factor. It's like I can't explain it.
But what
you know
it factor does
guy.
he have?
The fun uncle.
He's
Like,
the
is that
fun
the it
guy.
factor? Yeah,
Like,
okay.
But he's the guy,
a fun
he's
guy.
the memories. Like, what do you remember from that 2022 season? Them winning, but then also the overalls in the clubhouse,
I mean,
the
he did give
beers
us
in
a
the
song.
clubhouse.
I'll
The
be honest.
song.
Garrett Stubbs comes in 15th on my list of things I remember from
He
2022.
did create the song. I mean, we literally.
No, Schwarber brought it in.
Schwarber brought it in,
that's
but
true.
Stubbs,
Schwarber brought the song.
Stubbs was the
He's
playlist
the chief
guy.
vibes officer.
Yeah, but not many people know the entire playlist. They just know Dancing on My Own. I
True.
know that
Yeah.
there's a couple other songs on there.
I think,
one about
I'm
Dallas.
not going to put it in my top 15. Like, I remember JT more than that. I remember Reese more than that. I remember on-the-field stuff more than that. But when you tell the story of a great team, you need the outside stuff. Nobody cares about just the baseball.
I understand that. Like, I think about Eric Bruntlett in a very positive way, and he was like 20th on the 25-man roster, right? But I think of him in a positive way because he helped win a World Series. But still, like, it's the everyday thing. Like, when Garrett Stubbs is gone, which it could be this year, at least in AAA, there's going to be people that are, like, legitimately upset.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll just be like, all right, Marshawn's better.
But also in 5 years, they're going to be like, hey, remember that fun catcher? That was fun. And then they've moved on.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to try to find out what makes us pick and choose players that we love and players that we may not rock with. And Darius Slay is a prime example for a lot of you as a player you don't rock with. So coming up next, I have talked about it on the airwaves a lot. Gunnar, you know that for a fact. I always kind of question what it is, but I've never straight up asked the question for the audience. So for you, if you are somebody that does not like Darius Slay, for whatever reason, I need you to tell me what that reason is. Because when it comes to football, he hasn't been a problem. So tell me why you don't rock with Darius Slay. We will update you on the latest Slay CJ GJ beef next. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Amy in for Johnny today. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
My lineup has always been Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber, Castellanos, Stott.
Here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul is filling in for Johnny today. John will be back from his vacation on Monday. Now, this is, you saw the show sheet.
I did. Exceptionally well organized.
Thank you. Very well prepared.
Yes.
But here's the deal. I just caught myself. I'm not very well prepared because I went to Darius Slay's Twitter account just now to
I saw it.
His tweets are now protected. So, Darius, I wanted to go read the tweet, but
Well, they're screenshotted.
I know. But here's the problem. And look, we're going to get into everything
Isn't that
went
lame?
down. It is, especially when you say things and then you get upset when people hold you to it. And I like Darius Slay. I'm one of the very few people, I believe, in this city that side with Darius Slay, defend Darius Slay, and yet he does things like this, and it makes me look bad. Like, yo, dude, how can I defend you when you're the one that does say stuff, and then when it comes time to being questioned about it, or when people do take exception with what you have to say, you run and hide. This is not the first time where he has protected his tweets. How many times did we rip Jalen Reagor for deleting his Twitter account and then reactivating it like 3 days later?
Oh, I know.
Like, it was annoying. And so this is annoying to me that you said something which I don't think you were totally off base in saying. You explained yourself, which is why I'm trying to find the tweet. And now you protect it? Like, come on, dude. Thank you, Brendan Gunn, for doing that. I appreciate it. So yesterday, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we'll go through all the tweets coming up in a little bit. He was crashing out, even though he tried telling people that he was not crashing out. But Darius Slay explained himself when he first started talking about the veteran leadership. And here's what he said on Twitter before protecting his tweets. We just won a Super Bowl together. I do not have no problem or hate towards bruh. Reed is in our leadership council, which is why I said what I said. I would expect him to be the next guy up. It's nothing but love on my end. If you really know me, y'all have a blessed day. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was not in the leadership council, which is why Darius Slay was speaking specifically about Reed Blankenship, who was in said leadership council. So what Darius Slay said, I get. And look, I understand why there's beef or why somebody's upset. I'm just of a different generation, Amy. I'm 31. I would handle things offline.
Yes. Well, that's not how it's done now.
No, it's not. And so that's why I had a bit of a problem with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson yesterday. But obviously, Darius Slay is not absolved of this. But I need people to tell me today, the Eagles fans that are listening at 610-632-0975, when we ask the question, what makes us pick and choose player that we like and don't like, who we rock with, who we don't rock with, why is Darius Slay somebody that people the whole time have not rocked with him? Like, this isn't like just this moment happened and now we're picking a side. This has been going back like 3 years now.
Yeah.
And Amy, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would, of course, we all saw CJGJ go on his tirade and not crash out, of course.
According to
he
him,
did.
yeah.
I mean, there was a flurry of tweets that
Yes.
were coming at it. But you look at how people perceive that locker room from the outside, right? And you look for the things that we're given privy to.
Right.
Which is kind of the clips that they send out, the pregame speeches, the in-locker room speeches. And sometimes we see that because it's been edited and they ship it out. Sometimes you see it just because we're in the locker room as media members and you see it anyway.
Yeah.
But and pregame speeches that they are on the field. What you've seen with CJGJ is that fire, that intensity.
Which I love.
And I think that's why people they don't necessarily see, he seems like a real team guy.
Yeah.
In a lot of people's minds. I don't know that people saw that from Slade. I think they saw more of a me guy.
But if you read an article, one article from any of the reporters in the city, it's about how Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean looked at him as bigger brother.
And he really relished that this year.
Right.
There's a reason he was voted captain a couple years ago, but had never been captain before.
True. But he's been the captain, the last 2 seasons with the Eagles? And
2022 was his first year.
And that's voted on by the players.
Yeah, exactly, for 2 years in a row.
So if the players speak
and it meant a
for
lot to him. Yeah, it's very interesting to me, but I think people thought of him as a me guy instead of a we guy.
And so for those of you who don't rock with Darius Slay, it's a specific group of people, and it's a lot of people. I think it might be the majority of people. Why? Explain it to me. I always kind of question it, but I've never done the call to action. I want people to text in their reasoning at 610-632-0975. So coming up next, I have Amy here for the entire show. You have been in locker rooms. You know that teammates aren't always buddy-buddy. So you can talk on that coming up next. Also, is this officially Darius Slay out the door now that all this is happening? We'll go through it all with you next. And Tyrone Johnson made a great point about it all that I think should kind of be a message for life in general. We'll discuss that next here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was a quiet day on that front, but not so much on social media. CJ Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said earlier in the week on a podcast and voiced his displeasure on Twitter. Then A.J. Brown also took to Twitter to take issue with some Eagles fans. Hopefully nothing too serious on that front. Next week, we could see some new additions to the team as free agency opens, as the legal tampering period opens on Monday. Last night, the Sixers lost to the Celtics by a score of 123-105. They were without both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey in that one. They pick it up Sunday or tomorrow. I got to look at the schedule. I'm sorry. And the Flyers, they fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night by a score of 4-1. But today could be much more important, as the trade deadline in the NHL is today at 3 p.m. We'll keep you updated all show long, all day long here on
Sunday
the Fanatic.
for the Sixers, by the way.
Monday for the Sixers. Okay.
Sunday.
Okay. I appreciate you, Salciunas. That's why he's the host, and I'm back here right now. But we'll keep you updated all day long on the Flyers trade deadline today at 3 p.m. This update was brought to you by Helium Comedy Club, bringing the best comics of today and tomorrow live every week. Tickets and lineup at Helium Comedy Club. Now, I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
6:26 on this Friday morning here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. So yesterday, the best show ever obviously was talking about the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay beef. CJGJ was actively tweeting during this show, but Darius Slay put out his response right around the time the best show ever started. And I thought Tyrone Johnson had a great message, which I believe could be a message outside of sports too. You don't always have to pick a side.
Such a good life lesson.
Yeah. Like,
People really feel like they have to pick a side in anything.
you don't have to. Politics, sports, what's good, what's not good. Like, if pizza versus hamburger, give me both, baby. Like, that's what I want. Like, I don't have to pick one or the other.
About the cheesesteak egg roll.
I do like a cheesesteak egg roll. It is delicious, especially from the Gourmet Egg Roll Company. Big fan.
Well done.
Thank you. So yesterday when Tyrone's talking about that, I'm like, yeah. Now, I was on air when CJGJ was going off, and I was upset by him going off because there was no need for that happen. Like, I'm on the air going, oh, my God, the Eagles won the Super Bowl less than a month ago, and I got this guy going nuts on social media right now. And I love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I was devastated when he left after the 2022 season, but you can sort of point out there's a reason why he's bounced around in the NFL. Like, that is a fact. That has happened.
He's a good player, but maybe there's some outside things that people don't enjoy about him being in your locker room.
Right. And meanwhile, Darius Slay is talked about as if he's beloved inside the locker room, but on the outside, people don't like him. It's a weird kind of dynamic.
It is weird.
Where you can just say, hey, both of you stop. Right? Like, you have two kids.
Yes.
You know, there's probably times where you go, both of you, stop. I'm not picking a side here. Stop. So
whose side I pick? My side.
why can't we do that with Darius Slay and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Instead, it's become screw Darius Slay. I rock with CJGJ. When both are probably at fault in this situation. Yeah, but he started it. I don't care who started it. I'm ending it.
Yeah, the fact that it's like it's spilled over into, and this is the thing with, and I love that we have the access with guys doing podcasts and being on YouTube clips and being on social media. But at the same time, it's a GM's nightmare, a coach's nightmare.
Right.
It's like, stop. Just why? Sometimes you don't need to say everything that you think out loud, and you certainly don't need to say it in a place that's recorded and then put out to the world. But if you do, you have to own it. And I feel like that's like where people have an issue. As soon as they say something and someone calls them on it, then it's like, oh,
right.
Well, now that, okay, well, just don't do that. But that's, the cat's out of the bag. I don't know why he obviously took great offense, CJGJ did.
Oh, yeah, I'm not crashing out. Yeah, dude, you are.
Your tweets were coming so fast. There were spelling errors in them. They were correcting the spelling
and he
errors.
has every right to his feelings.
And that's fine.
I thought what Darius Slay said, I could understand where CJGJ got upset.
You need to say, he just said veterans. And obviously CJGJ being a veteran took exception to that because even though he didn't say his name, and then of course he had to say like, what were you guys doing in veterans in 2023? And I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
What are we?
Yeah,
What's
he made it very clear that with who he was upset with, and he was retweeting tweets literally about Darius Slay
from like random people.
Now, if I'm Darius Slay and if this happens offline, I go, dude, were you in the leadership council? Yes or no?
Don't you at some point? I don't know. And I guess if it was me and I saw what Darius Slay put out there, I'd probably put out one message and be like, hey, I felt like we have some really good leadership and across the board, young and old. And I would have called the guy.
Right.
I mean, it's not like they play different positions. It's not like a kicker that's like calling out a defensive lineman.
Right. Like, no, they're in the meeting room. Like, when they do secondary meetings, they're together.
In the secondary together. They're in the defense together.
So, yesterday when I saw a tweet from Tyrone, speaking of Tyrone Johnson, he said, this really doesn't matter unless they're on the same team again next year. And then it'll obviously have to be addressed. I disagreed because Darius Slay is still open to coming back here. And I'm somebody who would like to bring back the guy that locked down a lot of wide receivers this year, didn't show his age, 3-time Pro Bowl, loved by his teammates. I'm not ready to move Cooper DeJean to the outside. I think he's exceptional in the slot, and that is a important position on the field. So I'd like to bring Darius Slay back. Could this be a situation where he goes, all right, fine, I'm going elsewhere. Like I don't want to play with that guy. Or if they do bring him back, the news comes out, Darius Slay is returning to the Philadelphia Eagles. Does Chauncey Gardner-Johnson get upset that they bring him back? So that's why I'm happy that you're here today, because you have been in locker rooms before, and not everybody is best friends.
No.
Could something like this still work despite what we're seeing unfold on social media, at least yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the heat of it was right initially when the comments came out from Slay and then CJ GJ reacting to it. That's all like live. You said it. It's like live.
Yeah.
It was literally like as he's seeing it.
I'm doing the show. I'm saying, oh, here's another one.
It's just like,
Oh,
it's like he
here's
was
another
listening
one.
to it live, CJ GJ was, and just like he needed to get his feelings out. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I like that they have the avenue to express their feelings, but you have to be able to also man up, own those feelings. And when someone calls you on it, whether it's the person that you're calling out or vice versa, they're calling you out, you have to be able to move past that. We've all worked in any kind of office place. You don't like everybody.
Right.
I was in a sorority in college. You don't like every single person in your sorority.
But you take the pictures as if you guys are
Well,
all
of course you do.
best friends. Your sisters.
That's right. You don't like everybody in your family, for Pete's sake. Okay? So, but you move on. You do it for Grandma, and they're going to have to do it for Howie and for Nick Sirianni. I think it's absolutely, completely viable that those two guys could be on the Eagles, and everything would be okay. It would be one of those beefs like, but hey, man, here's what I was talking about. I was just talking about the Leadership Council. Yeah, but don't put my business out there like that. You made it seem like you were calling me out. If it was that way, I'm sorry. And if you want me to come and say something, I mean, the conversation is a very easily had conversation.
Yeah.
With level heads weeks after it's done, not on Twitter instantly
Not
reacting.
every athlete is level-headed.
And I
Amy,
get, and
as you know.
yeah, and that's fine. But no, I mean, it's unrealistic to say when you walk into a locker room and think, oh yeah, we're all friends here and kumbaya. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts were best buddies, godfathers to children,
Yes.
buddies, right? They had beef. They talked about it. They might still have beef.
They
I
might
don't
still
know.
have it. We don't know.
But we're okay with it.
Yeah.
They're okay with it. You put that stuff aside, and at the end of the day, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, are they best buddies? No. They don't. I don't even know if they get along at all.
I don't know.
I don't care if they get along.
Right.
They got along well enough to win a Super Bowl.
And that, to me, that's all that matters. And that's why when I ask about the Darius Slay
yeah, why you have to pick a side.
sort of feelings from a lot of Eagles fans, I'm curious. We'll check our text line coming up here in a little bit at 610-632-0975. The big, overall question of what makes us pick and choose players that we love and players that we don't necessarily rock with, I would love to hear answers on that. But Darius Slay specifically, for those of you who are always kind of anti-Slay, 5 years of it, right? Like, he's been here for 5 years, and I don't really remember the season where people loved him. Maybe when he first got here, we were excited because of the success that he had with the Detroit Lions, and you desperately needed a cornerback, and he comes here. Maybe year one there was a honeymoon phase, but since then, there have been more anti-Darius Slay people than pro-Darius Slay people, and that guy's been your best corner for 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl victory, and is the reason why Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are growing as much as they are. They're talented in their own right, but they do credit Darius Slay for his veteran leadership. Now, you mentioned the A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts beef. Anthony Milanese checked in on the DMs. He slid in. I find some similarities in this situation compared to the A.J. and Jalen beef. They started a beef and a talking point, and then Jalen makes it about us, as in the fans and the media, when he said, so that's what y'all wanted to see. In this situation, Slay and CJ start something, and it's our fault. I'm tired of the fans being the reason why we're the ones talking. It's them. Ridiculous. So he is saying the players are causing all of this, and they get upset with the fans, which leads to A.J. Brown's Twitter. I know these tweets were deleted. I will give you those coming up next.
So good.
We will check the text line. It has been 0 days since our last nonsense here in Philadelphia. They have won a Super Bowl less than a month ago, and we got beefs and we got players calling out fans when the players are at fault. Nobody made up the Brandon Graham story that he said live on a radio hit.
Nope.
But it was the media's fault for whatever reason, or fans blowing it out of proportion. Y'all started it. Keep it in-house. Keep it offline, please. I'll read you the deleted tweets from A.J. Brown coming up next on a drama-filled football Friday in the offseason. Clearly, there's no games being played if this is what we're talking about. And we'll check our text messages on today's topics coming up next. Amy Fadul is in for John today. It is Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I don't understand.
Here on Kincade Salciunas. Amy Fadul in for Johnny today. We check our text line here momentarily about today's topics of what makes us love or not rock with a player, love or not love. And then when it comes to Darius Slay specifically, like what's the beef? Where did it start? Because I know there was the Micah Parsons incident earlier this year. Clearly what's going on this week. But this didn't start this year.
CJ defended Darius Slay quite a bit.
After the podcast
Yes.
thing? Because at first he was upset.
He was.
I remember he was doing the Instagram where it was like no photo and it was just the words.
Yes.
On his like.
No, I remember there was a locker. I'll see
Story.
if I can find the clip. There's definitely like a moment in the locker room where he defended.
him. Okay.
I'll find it.
You know, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Exactly. Sorry.
So yesterday, Joe Pez, who I appreciate Joe Pez. Joe Pez is a great content guy. He actually posted the video of you, me, and Johnny interviewing Pete Prisco.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Pez was the one that got that out there. So, look, I appreciate you, Joe. And he put out a tweet saying that Slay went on a podcast and was sneak dissing Devontae Smith. I don't even know where the hell that comes from.
Listen, I listened to the entire thing. It's not short. I never, because when you see something like that, then there was the one who was just like, oh, he said Jalen Hurts isn't elite. I'm like,
which we'll get to.
What's happening right now? So I was like, I got to listen to this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's long. The Devontae one, I never heard that.
Unless you went on a different one, not 100% sure, but that's the tweet.
And Devontae's name is something not Devontae.
Yeah.
Or wide receiver or Eagle.
Yeah, kind of hard to miss Devontae.
Exactly.
So
Or Smitty.
A.J. Brown quote tweets it and says this caption is lame.
Yeah.
And then he continues.
Of course he does.
And these are all since deleted. Eagles community is so messy, bruh. That's tweet 2. Tweet number 3. Y'all pick sides if it's not your favorite player. Weird behavior. And what have I been saying about Darius Slay for years?
That one, he could have kept that one.
For whatever reason, he is not people's favorite player, and I don't know why, which is why we're going to check our text line here soon to get to the bottom of it. And then he puts out one more tweet, again, all since deleted. It's like high school all over again. This isn't even my fight to fight. Y'all speculate instead of taking what the person just said. Then go on your pages, create your articles until the national media catches it. Y'all always be blaming the media, and it's really y'all. So, I have talked about this before. For whatever reason, when things that are messy happen with the Eagles, it seems to always be the media's fault. Now, I don't look at myself as some, journalist. All right? You are more of a journalist than me, Amy. I just do this show, and I have fun doing it. I obviously am opinionated, and obviously I'm not always green-colored goggles for the Birds, orange and black for the Flyers, red, white, and blue for the Sixers, and, of course, red for the Phillies. I have to call it like I see it. And there are times where it is fans that do cause problems sometimes. Now, in fairness, this probably happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I know my algorithm has Eagles fans, and I see some of the vile things that are said about players. I've seen vile things said about other players in other cities, right? I remember when Danny Green was complaining about Philadelphia. I said, didn't you literally get security guards around your house because Lakers fans were threatening to find you for missing a shot? It happens everywhere. But it is funny where people try to blame us. I saw Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's tweets yesterday. And one of the first responses was, man, can't wait to see the media spin this one to make you out to be the bad guy. It's what do you mean he's actively tweeting about locker room stuff less than a month after winning the Super Bowl. This is on him. The stupid plane, whoever wasted their money with the banner that the no more fake news in Philly media or whatever, after Brandon Graham went on the radio and said that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown aren't friends anymore, for whatever reason, that became the media's fault. It was the player who said it. So I don't get, sometimes it's the player's fault. In this case, I believe it is the player's faults. Sometimes the media is at blame. I hear nonsense spewed all the time in this city and nationally.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because they want to further the story. They want to move it on.
Right.
But if you just take it, but I didn't take A.J. Brown's thing as a media bashing.
No, it was toward the fans.
Which was so funny, because he was like, y'all are going to blame the media. And that's the first thing. It's like, oh, I can't wait to see what the media is going to do. It reminds me of the old Chris Rock skit. The media.
Right.
No, sometimes it's just you.
Yeah.
But it is funny when you're given a microphone, and the way that the media is nowadays. How is what Darius Slay, how is that not a member of the social media?
Right.
So he's a member of the media at this point.
The podcast,
It's so different now. It's not like just a journalist out there that's writing an article, a column, if it is, which is an opinion.
And by the way, nobody asked him a gotcha question. It's his podcast.
It's his podcast. And he went on and they said, hey, what are some differences? They're just talking about stuff. And he said, one of the things was some of the veteran leadership maybe wasn't there. And we've got these young guys, talks about that. didn't name names, but you have to own it because you were clearly talking about something.
Right.
That's his experience. He's in the locker room. If he felt like there wasn't as much leadership from certain guys, that's his opinion. It comes from a place. And so when CJGJ has a problem with it, he can also have that opinion. In no way, shape, or form is that the media's fault for giving him a microphone.
No. He did that.
It
He
was
went to
his
Target. He went to
microphone.
Target
Exactly.
and
It's
bought
his
one, or Amazon or something.
Like, I get it. There are times where the media in general will take something because they want to further the story,
Yeah.
and they will read stuff into it, and they will try to and that's what their job is, investigating type of
Right.
things. And that's where certain media
And then
members.
sometimes people put their opinion to it, and then they go over the top.
And that's a
You know,
column.
I'm not afraid to call out Marcus Hayes for the way he wrote about Joel Embiid earlier this season. Like, it crossed the line.
It did. And there's a reason it was edited out.
And it was addressed between the
Afterwards.
two parties
Yes.
afterwards. So what are the people saying on the text line, Gunner? I'm curious. Is there anyone that's chimed in about Darius Slay specifically yet? Because I've never asked the audience to tell me why you have a beef with Slay. I'm trying to figure out what it is today.
Yeah, well, we got somebody checking in, Ed and Delco. He said, just like Amy had to smile in the pictures at her sorority, even when she didn't love everybody in the sorority itself.
I loved everything.
Okay, other people did it. It would be nice if Slay would do the same instead of going on podcasts and being critical of teammates. Even if it's true, what does it gain from saying it out loud?
So now here's the thing.
Yeah.
Darius Slay, let's not act like he's not setting himself up for what's next. He's almost done in his NFL career, so he's doing stuff. I don't know if it's going to be full-time podcast or if he gets picked up by a network, right? He's a handsome-looking fella that has opinions. Like, he's probably going to be on a network not long after he retires. And so he's kind of maybe starting to do that kind of stuff. And we'll play you some of the audio later on the show. I don't know if he said anything that's totally off base, but I get it. He just won a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts not long ago. And so when he talks about his list of elite quarterbacks, I understand why Eagles fans would take exception to him not mentioning Jalen Hurts on that list, which we'll get to coming up in a little bit. But I want to hear from the people. What makes us love or not rock with certain athletes? Like, what puts them automatically in your good graces? Because there are people that once they're out on somebody, they're out on somebody. John Kincade always says it. We love who we love. We don't who we don't. Nick Castellanos, I believe, is a poster child of that. So I'm trying to figure that out today, trying to get to the bottom of it. You can text in at 610-632-0975. We reset today's topics coming up next. Also, just a quick side note off of the Eagles. We may have gotten a little sign of things to come for the Phillies yesterday with their lineup in spring training. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Amy in for John today on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was quiet on that front, but not so much on social media. CJ Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast and voiced his displeasure on Twitter. And then A.J. Brown took issue with some Eagles fans on Twitter and now deleted tweets. Ultimately, hopefully it's nothing too serious once the offseason gets rolling again. And next week we could see some new additions to the team as free agency opens with legal tampering on Monday. The Sixers, they fell to the Celtics last night by a score of 123-105. They were without both Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. The Sixers hit the court again on Sunday to take on the Utah Jazz at 7:30. And the Flyers, they fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night by a score of 4-1. But today could be much more important as the NHL trade deadline is today at 3 p.m. We'll keep you updated with news on that front all day long, all show long, all weekend long here on The Fanatic as well. This update was brought to you by the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Drive high, get a DUI. A message from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
6:55 here on Kincade Salciunas. Amy Fadul in for John today. We have Knockout coming up Wednesday, March 26th. So maybe if the tournament's still going on after you take care of your post-game duties.
Oh, that's right. I'll have to come check it out.
Sixers Wizards. I'm sure that's a long post-game show. You can participate in the
Wrap that
Fanatic
one up quickly.
Knockout Tournament Wednesday, March 26th. Today's keyword for you to enter from now until the end of the show today on the contest page, 975thefanatic.com, is maybe fitting for that game. Brick. B-R-I-C-K. Today's keyword, brick, for your chance to win the pair of Sixers tickets for the game Wednesday, March 26th, and, of course, the spot and knockout, which is always a really, really cool event, regardless of how the game plays out. To be able to step on the court and play knockout and, shoot in the hoop. One of the coolest things, Amy.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I go to take the first free throw and you look up, and obviously you're supposed to zero in back rim, then you just see the row of seats going up behind, and you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah, I'm here.
This is not the park
No.
where there's trees in the background. Like, no, there are rows of seats. There's sponsorships all over the place.
It's a legit rim.
Yeah, and I got to hit that back rim.
Exactly.
Got to make this shot, or I get talked about how I don't know how to play basketball. And that's always a terrifying thing.
I feel like I heard that last year.
It's a no.
Not from you. I'm so sorry. I heard it. Well,
I'm a walking bucket.
Ricky, I think I heard it quite.
I knocked Ricky out.
I know.
That was a big day for me, knocking out Ricky Patalico. Anyways, so here's what we're talking about today. It's a spin off of yesterday's debacle on social media with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tweeting out his feelings actively on social media in response to Darius Slay. And we're going to play some audio from the Slay podcast for you later on in the 7 o'clock hour. But basically, in case you've not been following along in Days of Our Lives Eagles edition, Darius Slay talked about how Reed Blankenship is going to be great leader for the Eagles next year if Slay is not back. He did suggest that the Eagles bring in a veteran to add to the leadership of the Philadelphia Eagles. He did not mention Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's name. CJ took exception to it and was very active on social media complaining about it. And what both of them said, I think both of them were in their own right.
And that's the thing. That's where you go back and look, why do you need to choose a side? You can both be right.
Yeah.
You can both be wrong.
Yeah.
But they can both be. These are both how they felt. You can feel slighted for talking about there's no veteran leadership.
Yeah.
When you're a veteran in that group. You can also, because you were in that group, in Darius Slay's
You were in
case,
the leadership group, yeah.
You were in the leadership group. You looked around and thought, hey, we're in good hands with these young guys.
Right.
It doesn't mean that CJ doesn't have a place in the locker room. I feel like he felt it took it too far. But
Right.
that's how he felt, because he felt slighted. And maybe he should have.
Now, everybody takes things in their own way. Like, he brought up, when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson went online and started, mentioning Byard, they didn't bring Byard in over Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. First of all, they traded for Byard.
Exactly.
That happened in the middle of the season, toward the trade deadline.
Completely different vibe.
They wanted Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. They did not like that the contract, I think the money was more on the back end, and he wanted it up front because of the season that he just had. Understandably so. I think your agent completely dropped the ball on not taking the contract, and then you go to the Lions. Good for you. You played a couple of games, unfortunately got hurt, then you come back to the Eagles. And I thought all was beautiful, right?
Won a Super Bowl.
And so I understand why Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was upset. Darius Slay doesn't need to podcast everything. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson does not need to tweet out everything. Both things can be handled offline. And that's where I go to it. As Tyrone Johnson said yesterday, you don't have to pick a side. However, as you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN, HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities, a lot of people are picking sides. And it's all team Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. There's very little team Darius Slay. There are very little, appreciative fans of Darius Slay, which I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Why is Darius Slay...
I think they like what he did on the field, but people seem to not like him.
I don't even know if people love what he did on the field. There are people...
That's crazy.
I saw a guy tweet me yesterday saying, he didn't have an interception this year. I'm like, Okay, teams didn't throw his way.
Did you like Quinyon Mitchell on the
Who had
field?
0 interceptions. Cooper DeJean had 0 interceptions. Darius Slay may have not intercepted passes, but I know a lot that bounced out of his hands. Like, he broke up plays. And I think a lot of it had to do with his 8 interception season in Detroit, which, by the way, guys, just looking back at it, here are his interceptions by year. 0, 2, 2, 2, 8, 3, 2. That's his time with the Lions.
Which was good.
1, 3, 3, 2, 0. He pretty much played to his career average every single season when
2
it came to
interceptions a year.
interceptions.
2
The
interceptions a
8
year.
is the one that inflates the average. You take the 8 out, it's 2 a year. And yet people get upset that he didn't have many interceptions. But that
Elite
he didn't need
cornerbacks.
to.
Elite corner. No, if you're an elite cornerback, you're not getting 8 because no one's throwing on your side. How many
Right.
did Revis when he
Yeah,
was
it's
rolling
so
on Revis
funny.
Island?
I was
right?
just bringing up Darrell Revis as you
when
speak.
Darrell Revis was rolling, you never threw over there.
Yeah,
he had to hunt.
His most. You want to take a guess? His most
5.
interceptions in a single season. Gunner, you have a guess? Most picks in a year by Darrell Revis.
6.
6 is correct. His 17-game average is identical to Darius Slay's.
See?
3 over
That's
the course
thing.
of his career.
So you always have an anomaly. I mean, obviously he was a rover. Like Revis was just
yeah,
like,
and
all
he was a
right, let's go.
4-time All-Pro. So, like, Darrell
That's-
Revis had a
that
better
is-
career than Darius Slay.
If that's our bar, great. But I mean, a really good cornerback is going to have a couple of interceptions a year. That's how it works.
Yeah.
They're not going to have interceptions like receptions. It's not going to be like 17. I think people just have real unrealistic. But I do think, and I said this to Andrew off air, I think a lot of people had issues initially with Slay when he started making people call him Slay in big play.
I understand. I totally
Because that
understand.
seemed like a me guy
yeah.
from the jump. Like, you just got here and you're already being like, don't call me Darius.
Yeah, and like
Although I just have a quick question, gentlemen that I've never met before.
Mr. Slay, can I call you Mr. Slay? When you don't intercept the ball as much, maybe that is why people go, I can't call you big play Slay when you're not making
I'm not calling
big
you that.
plays. Like if you're doing the look, a pass breakup could be a big play in a
Yeah.
big spot in a game. But if you go to YouTube after a game and go, top 10 plays from Eagles Chiefs, pass breakup's not going to be one of the top 10 plays. Right?
Doesn't mean it wasn't important, but
Right.
it's not gonna make the highlight reel.
So I get it why people may have taken exception to that. Do we have any more texts on Darius Slay before I give you this Phillies lineup from yesterday that could be a sign of things to come?
So we got one guy checking in saying, I love Slay. I've always loved Slay. Never understood why people don't ride with him. He's been one of the greats for the last 5 years. And we also got an update on both of where those guys are going to be tomorrow. CJ GJ and Darius Slay are going to be in Oaks signing autographs tomorrow. Are they going to run into each other?
Whoa,
At
wait.
the convention center?
At the convention center. Mike from
Yes.
Phoenixville just texted in saying
That
they're
is
going to be
great
at the same
insight.
place tomorrow.
Dude.
Do you think the organizer's like, we got to put them for? If I'm the organizer,
Big Dom in
right
the
I
next
was
center.
about
to
to
each
say,
other.
where's Big Dom hiding
They're right-
during this?
I've been to the car. I remember when Deshaun Jackson first left. He did like a signing up there, and we went up there. It's chaotic. Those things are chaotic.
That's crazy.
I bet.
Chaotic. That's going to be. Please put their tables right next to each other. Please, organizers of this, put their tables right next to
I
each
need
other.
to find out if they're there like together.
Oh yeah, if it's at the same time.
Like, is this was this a planned thing where it's like, come meet Darius Slay and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I know there's a lot of people there. Like Big Dom himself is there signing autographs and stuff like that. Like pretty much the whole team. I
Oh,
think
so is
there.
it like the Super Bowl?
it's a Super
win,
Bowl
maybe?
thing?
Okay.
but they're both scheduled to be there.
I can't wait to see this. I'm excited for it. AJ Brown's going to sign the autographs of the people that he called out yesterday.
So people
Fans.
should, if you're really smart and you go to this, please print out some of the tweets.
Yes. Can you sign this for me, AJ?
Print out the tweets. Print out C.J. Gardner-Johnson's tweets. Print as if you can find Darius Slay's tweets.
They're
Print those
protected
out.
now.
Print them out.
That's weak, by the way. Again, we talked about it earlier. The protecting of the tweets. After you are so vocal and you then protect it, I think that's a weak move. And I'm probably Darius Slay's biggest defender in the city. So I'm not afraid to call him out. Now, yesterday, the Phillies played the Rays in spring training. And a couple of times this year, we've seen the lineup where we go, all right, that's probably your top 5 opening day lineup. Then, of course, the bottom 4 guys were guys getting their work in and all kind of stuff. So yesterday, they had a lineup that very well could be, and I believe will be, as long as everybody stays healthy, the starting lineup of your Philadelphia Phillies. Trey Turner leading off at shortstop. Bryce Harper. John Kincade gets his wish. Bryce Harper bats second. Now I'm curious, what's the spin zone from John when he comes back? Because John was upset with Bryce that he was not batting second. Not upset with the Phillies. He was upset with Bryce. Bryce is now batting second. Is there a spin zone here coming from John Kincade?
I just love that he just thinks that, like, Bryce Harper's also said, like, if you need me to go in the outfield, I'll do that.
I'll go to the
Like,
outfield.
stop it.
Yeah. So Harper's second at first. Bohm third at third. Schwarber. Hallelujah. Batting cleanup. Wow. Believe it or not, it can happen for hopefully more than 14 games. Nick Castellanos fifth in right field. Kepler sixth in left field. Real Muto seventh behind the dish. Stott eighth at second. Brandon Marsh ninth in center. Now, I imagine they're still going to be platooning Marsh and Rojas.
Yeah.
A couple of people have said there's no guarantee that Rojas starts.
I've heard that quite a bit.
Man, if only they listened to me last year when I said it was a bad idea to start a guy who can't hit, and then eventually you're going to have to send him down, which what did they do last year? Eventually sent him down. Wasn't for a long time. He came back.
And when he first came back, he remembered how to bunt, and then he forgot again.
Yeah. Marsh batting ninth, I'm okay with. Marsh needs to change his approach. I am kind of terrified of Stott Marsh left
Back.
when they both struggle against left-handed pitching. That is something that I do concern myself over when a reliever comes in, and it's not like you're pinch hitting Brandon Marsh for Johan Rojas.
Right.
Or you're not having Rojas come in for Marsh. You're not going to have
That's
him
the same,
pinch hit.
yeah.
You're going to need like a veteran righty to come in and hit. And then Rojas goes in for the defensive replacement. But that could be your opening day lineup.
I like it.
I don't mind it. It's a good start. And Aaron Nola was on the bump yesterday. All right, coming up next, I want to talk about some of the other players in this city that don't necessarily get the love. And I always like to try to figure out why. Some make no sense to me. We'll get into that coming up next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Amy in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say about it.
Fadul filling in for John today. Now, Amy, this is your second time on the show this week because you did your Tuesday hit with Connor and I. And remember, I gave you the list of players who I thought are underappreciated in the city of Philadelphia.
Important, underappreciated.
Yes, not underrated,
Right.
not whatever, just underappreciated.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about this Darius Slay thing because I think he's number 2. I think number 1 is Joel Embiid. You may be right that maybe Aaron Nola should be
A little higher.
on this list. And so Darius Slay, I think, is underappreciated in the city for what he's been able to accomplish. Now, if you don't rock with Slay because maybe the attitude, you mentioned, he comes off as a me guy. Okay, I get it. I think about like Joel Embiid. And the confusion I get sometimes from Philadelphia fans specifically. Forget fans outside of Philly because obviously they hate Joel Embiid because of the flopping and all that kind of stuff. But Joel Embiid, when we talk about Philly guys, like there are people that have favorite players based off of whether or not they believe they're a Philly guy.
Yep.
I just like talent. But if you're a Philly guy, cool. Like that's like Jason Kelce. There's a reason why he is a Mount Rushmore guy.
Yeah. He's both.
Yeah.
He's both super talented
and Philly guy.
He's a Philly guy.
And he understood the city of Philadelphia.
Got us.
And that's why he's beloved, right? Embiid, if we're talking about like Philly tough, I understand that he gets hurt a lot.
But he puts himself out there a lot.
And he plays through the injuries. And so why isn't that appreciated more by the I like Philly guy crew when I believe that is like a Philly trait? Regardless of what's being thrown your way, you keep on going through it. Let's not act like Joel Embiid hasn't had a lot of bad things thrown his way. Does he have millions of dollars? Yeah, he's set for life. But injury after injury after injury, and yet he keeps going. And you might be exhausted by it as a Sixers fan. I don't blame anybody for it. But I'm surprised that it's not more celebrated by people that he has played through so much and continues to play through so much and still wants to win for this city. And he straight up said it.
He did. And it was interesting when Nick Nurse was asked, I guess it was last week, like if you thought about just shutting him down, he's like, he still wants to play. Like we are exploring. The reason they didn't just go like, well, we're just going to get another surgery is one, obviously a surgery is a big deal. But two, he was interested and they were interested in trying to see if there was a way because he is still competitive. If he just was like, all right, listen, the knee's not great. I had the Bell's palsy last year. I had the knee. I've had back. Whatever it is. If he hung it up, people would have been like, I get it. Like, that's a lot. But he keeps trying to come back because he loves this sport. He loves this town. He loves this team. And there's a reason he wanted to stay here. And I think that the appreciation or lack thereof, as you're talking about, comes from the fact that people are like, oh, well, he's always hurt. And, oh, he doesn't do that. What doesn't he do?
Right.
What doesn't he do?
Well, and that's the other thing. Like,
stay healthy, but like...
You mentioned that he loves his town, because I remember when the quote came out that he said, what's next for Joel Embiid? I want to win a championship either here or somewhere else, right? And I know a lot of people were upset by it. I'll bring up Jason Kelce again. We love Jason Kelce because he walks around the Jersey Shore. Mm-hmm. Didn't Embiid build a house in like Margate, and doesn't he walk around the Jersey Shore? Kind of hard to miss.
Yeah,
Joel Embiid.
He lives in Pennsylvania. He doesn't
leave.
But does he shotgun beers?
Right. Well, sure. It used to be shotgunning Shirley Temples.
Not a big drinker, that Joel.
No, but like that's the thing that I don't get. Like, he seems like a guy that I would think people would be like, yeah, that's a Philly guy. He stays here.
I know people that know him from interacting with him with his child at like preschool events and things like that. He's very well liked. He's very participatory in events, and you see him at parks. He went to the St. Joe's game the other game.
Yeah, which is
Arthur.
awesome.
Dude, he walked around the city playing pickup games with random people.
Yeah, they liked him a little bit better then.
How is that not like still celebrated?
Playing tennis too.
Nick Castellanos. I know people don't love the attitude, and I get it.
I had this the other day. I don't understand that.
You would think that
someone asked me like, "Oh my gosh, what was it like talking to Nick Castellanos?" I was like, "It's fine.
We're Philly.
I got nothing wrong."
Don't we have attitudes?
He's honest. I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, but don't we have attitudes? Like, that guy that screamed in the face of the Vikings fan, "Go Birds!" after the NFC Championship game.
We high-fived that guy. We scream "Go Birds" to each other.
So we all have attitudes, and so Castellanos has an attitude.
I don't have any issue with that.
And the other thing is, he played 162 games last year, and was also one of your most consistent hitters. And so you would think a guy who tries to play every day. We complain about Embiid being hurt, and yet we complain that Castellanos plays every day. What do you guys want?
We complained when Embiid wanted to play through it to shut him down, even though we complain that he's always shutting it down. We can't. And we wonder why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, but I just it confused me. Like, there are players that don't get.
We like who we like.
Sir, and that's what John says all the time. Anthony M. Schmall checks in because Joel mopes, and it's like, yeah, I don't like the moping either. I am never afraid to call out the moping. Like, I'm never afraid to call out Darius Slay's antics on the podcast. But here's the deal. Is that my only image of Joel Embiid? Is the podcast my only image of Darius Slay?
DX Chop is my image of Joel. That's what I think of.
And 70 points and MVP and coming short in the playoffs. I get it. And it bothers me too.
The thing is, you can have both. You can, like you said, you can have, I don't know, some I don't really appreciate when he does this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is in your mind. In this case, the mopiness or the injuries. But you can also, you have to appreciate the good with the bad. And I feel like that's where it's lost. People think they have to be like, oh, I don't like him because he does this.
Right.
Well, do you not like him when he scores 70 points, you didn't like him then?
Yeah.
Oh, you did like him then?
Well, no. I remember doing the show the next day, and the first caller I took was, I don't care, tell me what he does in the playoffs. That was the first caller I took, and I was like, are you serious? Then you must live a miserable life.
Did they like Allen Iverson?
Probably. We like who we like.
There you go.
We don't who we don't. But Allen Iverson showed Philly toughness, like Embiid does. It confuses me. So, coming up next, we'll continue obviously talking about our topics today, but also let's celebrate Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Rosen some more, Amy. Not that they haven't gotten their flowers, but they deserve another bouquet. Because if you saw what happened in the NFL yesterday, it's another reason why you should say, yeah, Philadelphia's great. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Amy in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was a quiet day on that front, but not so much on social media. C.J. Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast and voiced his displeasure on Twitter. Then A.J. Brown took issue with some Eagles fans on Twitter in some now deleted tweets. Ultimately, hopefully it's nothing too serious once the season picks up. And next week, we could see some new additions to the team as free agency opens with the legal tampering period on Monday. The Sixers, they lost last night to the Celtics by a score of 123-105. They were without both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. They're set to host the Utah Jazz this Sunday down at the Wells Fargo Center. And the Flyers, they fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night by a score of 4-1. But today could be much more important for them as the NHL trade deadline is today at 3. We'll have news on any updates surrounding any moves the Flyers make all show long, all day long here on the Fanatic. This update was brought to you by Natural Lawn of America. Natural Lawn of America, get free seeding every year. Call 1-800-FREE-SEED now. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Ricky Batalico.
You look at this rotation. 7:25 here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul in for John today. We're going to get to some news that happened in the NFL yesterday as we are getting closer and closer to legal tampering. We're currently in the illegal tampering period. Legal tampering starts next week, as does free agency. So next week's going to be a lot of fun, which is why I took vacation the following week, not next week. Next week is going to be a wild week in Philadelphia and in the NFL in general. But there was a big thing that happened in the league yesterday that we'll get to here momentarily. But I do want to get to a couple of text messages before we start moving on a little bit. But obviously we started off talking about what makes us like certain players, what makes us dislike certain players. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of Darius Slay and why people just don't rock with him in the 8 o'clock hours when we'll start playing some of the clips that I understand what it started, and one of the other clips that people got upset with when it comes to Darius Slay. But let's not act like this just started a week ago. This has been going on his pretty much entire time here in Philadelphia, and I really don't understand why, but I'm different, and I don't do this to go against the grain, right? I'm not doing this because, you don't like Darius Slay? Well, then I'm going to be the guy that goes the opposite.
Yeah, you're not playing devil's advocate.
No, it's just I appreciate if you're a good football player, and he's a good football player. But what do we have on the text line so far this morning?
Yeah, we got Stan and Yardley checking in. He says, for guys like Slay, for me, guys like Slay are tough to get behind and root for. I have always rooted for guys on our teams that I can relate to or can appreciate their mentality or how they play the game or what kind of teammates they are. Darius, despite having a solid resume on the field, I can never get behind a guy like him who carried himself the way he did off the field and how he was never a team-first guy optically to the fans and his teammates. There are way too many examples of how he throws his teammates under the bus and brags about himself in his own play, so he's too unreliable and not desirable enough as a role model. Guys like Devontae Smith are the ones that I will root for and cheer for consistently. Again, not just because of their play on the field, but the character and decorum off of it.
All right, so I appreciate the very, very well-worded text. I'm sure you appreciated it too.
Yes.
But here's the deal. How he carries himself off the field and he's not a good role model. Just do 3 minutes of research. Like, that's my thing. And I had a major problem with the podcast last year. The worst moment, and again, this is coming from one of the big Slay defenders, so it means something when I feel the need to address something that he does. And I talked about this yesterday and the day before. Following the Niners game last year, 2 seasons ago, when he did the whole, I was great.
Yes.
The rest of the team played like crap. Use a different word.
Yep.
I was really upset by that. That was a horrible loss, and we saw what that loss led to. Mm-hmm. But you got the sense at that time, oh my God, they just came in here and took your soul. I don't think we expected the collapse to be the way that it was, but we got a sense that something bad was about to go down. And the lack of fight before the game when the Niners walked through your DB drills, and that's why we loved Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, because he would not have allowed that to happen. I get it.
He tweeted that as well.
He did tweet that out yesterday, and I agreed with him. I had no problem with him putting that out there. It's just slow down, Chauncey online. Come on. We don't need this to be bigger than what it actually is. When Darius Slay said that on his podcast, I hated him for it. I was like, dude, you can't say this.
Say that.
And there was the one couple of years ago, I think it was Josh Jobe, misplayed a ball.
Yes.
And he made it very clear post-game that was not him.
It was Josh Jobe did not drop back into the coverage, and Slay looked like he got toasted.
Yeah, but
he was like, that wasn't on me. That's all. Yes,
yeah,
that's exactly
and so
what it was.
People were upset and all that kind of stuff.
But he had to point out that it wasn't, that's not my guy.
Yeah. Now,
which is not what you usually say after
a couple of things. One, if it was such a problem, he would either have not been on the team or not voted again to be a captain. Correct. He remained on the team. He was once again voted to be a captain. The other reason I have to say you're not right in that text is Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. The way they speak about him shows that he is a mentor. He is a role model. Howie Roseman said to Quinyon Mitchell, I want you to move in with Darius Slay after drafting him. Jokingly, but also kind of serious. Mm-hmm. I want you to model your game and your career and how you handle yourself like Darius Slay does. Howie Roseman, the best GM in sports right now. So when all that is out there and public, that's why I have to disagree with what the texter is saying. I get if you're bothered by the podcast. I am still bothered by it.
You can be.
But clearly it's not bothering the team, and the players revere him.
You can have both. You can say, I think he is a little bit more of a me guy, that I don't appreciate that he says the things that he does, that seems to put himself in a better light and sometimes disparages teammates. You can say that.
Period.
Yep. Done.
Don't then go into the lies.
Exactly. I can also then say, I have a really good appreciation for what he did for this team over the course of 5 years, especially the last year where he brought along. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell's talked about Darius Slay before he even met him.
Right.
Here's a guy that I always looked at as somebody that I wanted to model my game. Now I get to play with him. This is crazy.
Right.
Darius Slay could have absolutely been like, if he was truly the guy that we think he is, or that some people think he is, he could have been like, I'm not mentoring a young guy. Did Aaron Rodgers mentor Jordan Love? No.
Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. That's not my job.
Right? I don't do that. That's on you. That's fine. No one's going to say that Aaron Rodgers is a great locker room guy.
Right.
I don't think that sentence has ever been said about him.
You don't hear
ever.
that. Other than Devontae Adams. He might be the only one that says that.
Maybe Randall Cobb. Those guys, they love each other. Which is great. But that's the thing. Darius Slay is viewed that way. He is viewed in a positive way in the locker room. And at the end of the day, isn't that all that really matters?
That's what should all that matter.
Yeah, I get it. People you hear that comment that Joe, I had completely forgotten about that. And he's like, well, that's not my guy. I'm like, I get that. I know he's not your guy.
It's a bad look.
But you don't say that. You don't
especially as the veteran.
You don't say
you're the veteran. Just eat one. Now, here's the deal. Going back to the we like who we like, we don't who we don't. Darius Slay gets crushed for what he said on the podcast after the Niners game last year. Meanwhile, nobody was bothered by Jalen Hurts allowing Nick Sirianni after the Seahawks game look like an idiot, talking about how, we tried designing a play to get a pass interference. Meanwhile, Jalen went rogue, and it was more good on you, Jalen, because Brian Johnson sucks. And so when you hear Jalen Hurts never defend Nick, people kind of just turn their head and go,
because they like who they like.
And so that's one of the things that I just try to figure out. Why is it that we like certain players? Why is it that we don't like certain players? We'd love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. But we all love the Eagles, and we all love them as an organization. I want to play a clip for you that we played earlier in the week from TJ Houshmandzadeh, a name you just got to know. Because he's a legend in the NFL.
Championship.
Here was TJ Houshmandzadeh earlier in the week talking about how great the Eagles organization is.
The Philadelphia Eagles, best organization in football. Everybody on their team that earns a big contract, you are rewarded. It's kudos to the Eagles. The draft is coming up soon. I'm praying if I'm in the draft that I get drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, the way they treat their guys. Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, stand up, pat yourself on the back, because you look at the Eagles team. Everybody on their team is getting paid. Right. But what these other teams say, the salary cap, man, we can't do it. No, you can do it. If you want to do it, the Eagles are the best organization in football. I want to go there as a free agent. I want to be drafted there. They are doing a hell of a job. Saquon earned this. He was still in the contract. They didn't have to do this. Look at their team. Both their receivers paid. Their quarterback paid. 3 O-linemen paid. Guys on their defense. But everybody else say, it's the salary cap. Really? What is the Eagles operating in a different salary cap than everybody else in the league?
Love that clip from TJ Houshmandzadeh, and I love that he says that people will want to be drafted by the Eagles. The reason why I play that for you again, yesterday, the Bengals,
TJ's former team,
will allow Trey Hendrickson to find a trade.
I saw that, and I had to double check it. I thought there's no way.
Sentinel or whoever the NFL
exactly.
equivalent
I was like, what? Is the T not Schefter? What's happening? I'm not really reading this, right?
Trey Hendrickson, who had 17 and a half sacks last year.
Trey Hendrickson.
17 and a half sacks the year before that. A down year with 8 in 2022. 14 the year before that. 13 and a half the year before that. He will be seeking a trade. And I don't know what the reason is specifically. He is going into his final year of his deal, so that's what it usually comes down to. But Joe Burrow, literally right after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, was on Part of My Take and was saying, the Eagles find a way to pay their players and keep everyone. It just seems like that's the way to.
Well, and he dealt
do
with it because Jamar Chase and that whole deal that was
last year.
happening.
T. Higgins now second straight year getting the
tag.
The tag. And so
The Eagles haven't used the tag in, 15 years?
Yeah, it was
2012?
Deshaun Jackson. I think we figured that out the other day, but they've only done it 5 times ever since the start.
Because how
of
he
the
gets
franchise
in.
And he
tag.
didn't even play on it because they worked out a
That's
contract
right, exactly.
extension.
It's
That's
almost
right.
like a placeholder for them if they ever use it.
So, I love you, Eagles. I love you, Howie. I love you, Jeffrey Lurie, because the money's coming out of his pocket, and he's doing the money up front, guaranteed money, all that kind of stuff. The Cincinnati Bengals, who already had one of the worst defenses in the league last year, are now going to get worse, trading away a premier pass rusher. I can't believe it, but that's what some teams do. They just can't figure it out and can't get out of their own way, and that's why the Bengals are usually voted as one of the worst ownership groups in football year in and year out.
Yep. It's truly remarkable. I really could. He's a Pro Bowler every year he's been in a Bengals uniform.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
it's
get
the
it.
only positive you've got going on your defense.
And you're
gonna
like,
you know what?
We don't want
could
to pay
do
this
better.
guy. I don't
We
get
can
it.
find someone that can do that.
Now, because the Eagles are the best organization in football, it's not just about how they handle contracts, it's how they work with people and all that kind of stuff. Tim McManus wrote a beautiful story on Mekhi Becton yesterday that I want to go through with you guys. And I wonder if he truly means what he says. Will that keep him here? We'll go through that next with you on Kincade Salciunas. Amy in for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and Silvana Kelleher. The best show ever.
Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul in for Johnny today. Again, keyword for you to enter on the contest page, 975thefanatic.com, is BRICK, BRICK, from now until the end of the show for your chance to win a pair of tickets for the Sixers-Wizards game Wednesday, March 26th. And, of course, the spot in Knockout afterward, where there will also probably be some bricks afterward because, you know, it's really cool to play Knockout. Yeah.
You get out there on that court and you look up, you're like, oh.
Yeah. Sometimes you see some bricks out there during the Knockout tournament, but it's all in good fun. All right, so Mekhi Becton is still a name that I am keeping a close eye on, and I would love for him to come back, not only because how talented he was with the offensive line last year and how gigantic he is alongside all his other offensive linemen, he also seems to be an awesome dude. And
that lasting image of him on the field at the Super Bowl is
him with his son, just looking up at the confetti and cry. Like, Amy, I am not very an emotional person when it comes to sports. I am a sucker for whatever my kid does. I'm bawling my eyes out. You know, it's quick. He knows how to hit the feels, man. But when it comes to sports, like I don't really have that many. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017-18, my body was shaking. I remember Christy hugging me and be like, "Oh my God, you're shaking!" But like I didn't have like tears pouring down my face. That's just not how my body or my mentality reacts. But like Mekhi Becton, seeing him emotional legitimately brought a tear to my eye. Like, damn, this is awesome, especially if you know the story.
And that's the thing. I mean, here's a guy, and I know you're going to touch on what Tim wrote about, which was great. I love that he illuminated it and really kind of obviously dove a little bit deeper. But when he first rolled up, I will never forget the very first day that we were out there at minicamp. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Massive human.
Gigantic.
Just so much bigger than anybody, which is
makes Mailata look small.
Which is incredible. And so I remember they signed him. Obviously, it was a one-year show-me type of deal for under $3 million. So you look up some of the backstory, and that you knew that he had flamed out. There's really no other way to say it.
Considered a bust. Yeah,
he absolutely flamed out from a first-round pick to just trying to make a team, hopefully trying to catch on. To see
Steen was day one of camp.
We'd already penciled him in.
Starting right guard. Becton was going to be a potential swing tackle.
Yeah, if somebody gets hurt, or if you need him for spot starts, or spot play, not starts.
Yeah, because if you remember the lockers.
Not even remotely a start.
No, the lockers they do for the offensive linemen, they put the starters all next to each other, and Steen was in that group and not Mekhi Becton.
That was the plan going into it.
So even if you just thought that little bit of it, like this guy remade himself and that emotion of it, I think it's great. And then when you really dive deeper like Tim did, how can you not get emotional looking at that picture?
Yeah, if you go to ESPN.com and just go to the Eagles page, you'll find it. And Tim McManus always does just such a great job. I love Tim. And Tim does a great job, especially with these big pieces. And I just want to read a couple of quotes from you from Mekhi Becton. Tim asked him about the emotions that he felt following the Super Bowl. We just mentioned it. Him crying with the son in his lap, looking at the confetti falling down. And he asked him, what brought you that emotion? He said, everything. Everything that I've been through, not even in my football career, just in my life. And it all finally hit at that one time. I had my son in my arms, and that's when it hit. And that's when he started getting really emotional. And, he straight up said, you can almost say I lost love of the game in a way because I was in such a bad place. Obviously himself mentally, but also the organization that he played for with the New York Jets.
He had ballooned up to 400 pounds.
Yep, and he had to lose a lot. I think he ended up losing like 60 pounds of which, because I saw somewhere in the story that he started weighing, I think it was like 350, 340 by the time the season started. And, he talked about that the Eagles brought back the love of the game for him.
If you remember the first day at training camp, he was thrown up 3 times. There was a throw-up counter.
That's
for
right.
how out of shape he was. Yep.
He had not participated in anything like that in a while.
And then what's beautiful about this story, again, Tim is one of the better writers that I know. C.J. Uzoma, who was on the Eagles roster this year, was a teammate of Becton's in New York. And so he talked about him saying, quote, this is the best change of pace that he could have had. Just mentally, he's in a better place, and that's a tribute to Jeff Stalin and the guys that are here and the way they embraced him and took him under his wing. He's really been able to come out of his shell. He's coming to his own, and you can see that. He's showing emotion. He has a personality that you didn't really see too much in New York. It's night and day. It's a complete 180, Mekhi, that I saw personality-wise from Florham Park to here. And so you're getting, different accounts. His trainer was a part of this story, talking about how he saw a different Mekhi Becton once he started playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, all his other teammates on the offensive line talk so highly of him. And so Tim McManus eventually gets the point of the story where he says, as far as what's next, that's to be determined. He indicated the chance to once again work with Stoutland could factor into his thinking as he weighs his options. The Eagles have a little north of $20 million in cap room. Philadelphia has given big money to offensive linemen Mailata, Johnson, and Landon Dickerson in recent years and will likely extend Cam Jurgens. It may not be feasible to invest significant resources into all 5 starting linemen, especially with 2023 third-round pick Steen showing promise in his limited playing time inside. But if Becton could be retained at a reasonable number, the calculus changes. And so here's the deal. I asked John this question before, Amy. I asked Connor this question. Obviously, we don't know the money that these guys know.
Right.
Right? And $10 million to us is, wow, that would be nice. But $20 million to $10 million
it's a big jump.
Is a big jump. And so he could get a big payday. But when you hear a story like that, and you hear that Mekhi Becton was as emotional as he was his time here in Philadelphia. We've seen the videos, not only of him crying after winning the Super Bowl. That's beautiful, right? A lot of players cry when they won the Super Bowl. There was video of him and Sirianni embracing after they won the NFC East. Not the divisional round of the playoffs. The division, he cried because how much that meant to him. Does part of you wonder, the hometown discount thing is so overblown. We always kind of look for a player to take the hometown discount.
But they do.
Sometimes they don't. Jason Worth, say good for you. Congratulations, get the bag. It almost feels like I expect more of Becton here in Philadelphia than elsewhere, even though all reporters basically tell me that I shouldn't think that way.
We think that because of the things you just said. 1, because Steen is here. He's already under contract. And 2, because the money's just not going to be available at the rate that Mekhi Becton can pull, right? So he would have to take a discount. But is it a discount for him? Do you know what I mean? Like, how much is he willing to discount going forward? Because how much do you factor in, I really love it here, I'm successful here, I enjoy it here, I hated it elsewhere. Do I want to do that again? Is that worth $7 million, $8 million, whatever the disparity is?
Right.
That's a conversation. And I think when you read articles like that, I think that's where you hear, and I don't want to call it a discount because he's staying with a winning organization if he did.
Right.
He's staying with a winning situation.
And a situation that makes him be who he is.
And he feels good at.
Emotional as he is, and he loves his teammates.
And he's with the best O-line coach in the history of the world.
Yeah, and you hear how Jason Kelce has spoken about Jeff Stoutland in the past. I imagine Becton,
it's just Mailata. Like
I do
owe
wonder
their lives and careers.
If somebody is expressing this much emotion, I wonder why you would leave. I get it. Get that bag, man. If you want to go get that money, go for it.
I think if it's close, I would think it would be, I'm staying.
And
that's what
that would be
Darius
great.
Slay even said it.
Yeah, that's true.
He apparently doesn't even like everybody.
As we get back to square one, yeah. Coming up next, speaking of which, we'll reset today's show. We'll check the text messages about today's topic that we'll remind you of coming up next. But it's about loving who we love and not rocking with those who we don't rock with. It is Kincade and Salciunas, Amy and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was quiet on that front, but not so much on social media. C.J. Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast and voiced his displeasure on Twitter. Then A.J. Brown took issue with some Eagles fans on Twitter as well in now deleted tweets. Ultimately, hopefully it is nothing too serious once next week rolls around. And next week, we could see some new additions to the team as the free agency period opens with legal tampering on Monday. The Sixers, they lost to the Celtics Celtics last night by a score of 123-105. They were without both Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. The Sixers hit the court again this Sunday to take on the Utah Jazz at home at the Wells Fargo Center. And the Flyers, they fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night by a score of 4-1. But today could be much more important for them as the NHL trade deadline is today at 3 p.m. We'll keep you updated all show long, all day long here on the Fanatic as far as any moves the Flyers may make. This update was brought to you by Rapid Radios. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bill Colarulo.
8:56 on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul is filling in for John today. Doing a great job, Amy. Thank you
my
for
friend.
making my
Happy
life
to
a
be
lot
here.
easier. It's great to have you.
stuff.
I didn't see it till literally like 2 breaks ago. You sent me the Phillies players
Yes, good stuff.
playing Operation. Are you bringing this up in headlines at all? Because I don't want to ever steal anything from headlines.
What?
So the Phillies players did, like, you know how the social media things, they have them
Not
play
bringing
games.
it up, so you're good.
All right, they had him play Operation.
Have you
And
seen this begun? It's tremendous.
Castellanos was the best one.
Dominated it.
Not surprised at all. Ranger was pretty good.
You need your pitcher to have a calm, cool hand.
But what Amy pointed out to me was Bryce Harper. You got to watch it. Holding tweezers like this.
Doesn't
Like
His middle finger was on one
that seems so bright.
one tweeze.
Like it just
what would you call it? One tweeze? He was
I don't know what
a tweeze. He's on one tweeze.
All that guy
of the
knows is
tweezers.
Yeah,
baseball.
one arm of the tweezer.
Yeah. Hey, what would you call it? I don't know what you call
I don't
it.
know.
The kid, he didn't have time to play games growing up, dude. He
just
was
All he
dominated
all he was
baseball.
doing was mashing baseballs.
Exactly.
But then I also saw your post yesterday of your double alarms.
Double alarms.
See, I'm at the point now
But I
where
don't know
it's-
why I set them. I set them so my body knows, but my body wakes up an hour before them anyway.
Yeah, see, I go one alarm and that's it. I'm up. Bang.
Yeah.
But
I don't
I'm
even know
also
why I
doing
set
this
them.
on a daily basis, so my body's kind of used to it.
I go to sleep around. I went to sleep early for me, which is around midnight, and then I woke up around 3:45.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I will preface this by saying I don't usually sleep a lot. I'm not. I think I've talked to you guys
Yep.
about this before. Like
Same
I'm
here.
not. I'm not a big sleeper. So like 5 hours, and my body's kind of like, you're good.
Did you have to work your way up to that, or were you always like that?
It's like I don't know. No, I mean when I was doing other things at night.
Yeah, I was gonna say a motherhood, obviously, probably.
It was actually before that. It was probably when I first turned. I don't know. I think I was like right here, so I was like 28, 30. I don't know,
Okay.
in that range, but. No, my body was just like, you're all good on the sleeping.
Yeah, you don't-
That
you don't
your
need to
time
do
is
that.
now, and I don't drink caffeine, so it's
Yeah, see,
very
I do.
strange. Yeah,
I do.
don't drink coffee.
Even though I'm not a big sleeper either, but I love my coffee.
Yeah, the double
Just-
alarms though. I think Connor texted me. He's like, "How was it?" And I was like, "I'm good."
Yeah, you're good. You're ready to go. You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Speaking of today's headlines, we got that coming up in about 15 minutes with my man B Gunn. Here's what we're talking about today. Darius Slay was the jumping off point because I do want to know from you today at 610-632-0975. I have always asked John or Andrew DeCecco. Today, you and I have been talking about it, Amy. Brendan, Connor. What's the deal with the Darius Slay disconnect? Like, why do Eagles fans not rock with him and have not rocked with him? So this is not a just this week thing. But it also leads to the overall question of why do we like certain players? Why do we not like certain players? I just like effort and talent. Like, I don't fall in love with the two-way contract guy. I fall in love with Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid is the best player on my team, and the amount of two-way contract players that I've seen that people go, oh, man, give this guy a real deal. Like, Mac McClung should not have gotten as much fanfare as he did other than dunking. Like, dunking, I get it.
Yeah.
He should not have had the fanfare that he should have been on the active roster. The amount of fanfare that a guy like Jaden Springer got and the tears that were shed when he was traded to Boston. Maybe the Boston thing scared people. Oh, and Paul Reed.
Paul Reed has more DMPs than he has games this year.
But there were tears shed.
yeah, people
Went out the mud. Went out of Philly.
Yeah, people were sad.
And I don't think he was the most talented player, and so that's why I had a certain opinion about Paul Reed. I just like if you're good. I'm a very easy man when it comes to that, but there are people that obviously pick favorites, and there are people that don't like certain players, and I would like to find out today why that is the case. So if you can give us some more text messages today, and don't worry, if you have not heard the Darius Slay audio that started all of this drama this week, I promise we will get into that coming up around 8:25 this morning. So 25 minutes from now, we'll play some of the Slay clips. We'll read the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tweets and then the A.J. Brown deleted tweets. That's something I don't get, the deleted tweets. Like, Yo, dude, screenshots live forever. Once you put it out there,
internet is written in ink.
Just keep it out there. Like Darius Slay.
Those are my favorite.
Those are the best. Darius Slay protecting his tweets. Like, dude, why are you doing that? Like, you're not. If anything, you're making it look worse that you're protecting your tweets. AJ Brown, you're telling me that you said, "Oh, damn, I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to delete." Just keep them up, man, and have conversations with people. If somebody takes exception to what you have to say, talk it out. Maybe offline, whatever. What do we have on the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, we got a nameless texter checking in. I love this one because Embiid just catches a random stray in a Slay text. It just goes, Embiid hasn't won anything. Slay isn't vocal enough about Philly, like Jason Kelce was. His wife actually shows more love to the city on social media. Once Jason won one and did the speech, that's when he was loved. Remember, people wanted him gone before that. I'm a Slay guy, but that's just my opinion.
No, they're right. Like, Jason Kelce did not become the phenomenon until the speech. Like, nobody really knew who Jason Kelce was.
He's a center.
Yeah. John always does here, I have $5 in my wallet, name me 3 centers in the NFL. And it's like, I got you. Like, I get the point that you're trying to make. They're not normally the first players that you think of. Jason Kelce was obviously different.
Good ones you do, but yeah.
Right. And so, Darius Slay not showing love to this, like, he kept on re-signing here. Like, does he really not like Phil? Like, I don't know.
Did you see when he was given, I think he was given a key to his hometown? The emotion.
No.
It's great. He's from Brunswick, Georgia, not the biggest town. And that was like one of the first really insightful things I thought. I was like, wow, this guy maybe isn't exactly who. He posted it.
Yeah.
It's really, really insightful into what football means to him, what winning means to him. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, and you brought it up when you're talking about, like, don't delete your tweets. At some point, you felt that way.
Yeah.
You just got to own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to own it. And so when people say, like, I don't rock with Slay because he's a me guy, sometimes he is a me guy. He plays the secondary. They're all me guys.
Yeah.
Who's the ultimate secondary? Who was, like, when you think about the ultimate secondary guy? Like a guy that was like played cornerback, and you're like, that guy was just unbelievable.
Well, I think of Asante Samuel pretty quickly.
Yeah, all me guys.
Guys.
Richard Sherman.
Sherman.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go down there, and who's coaching Colorado now? Stop it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not many Bobby Taylors and Troy Vincents out there.
So it's I don't know. Like, you're hating the guy for being himself.
For his personality, yeah.
And that's fine. If you don't like him because of his personality, it doesn't jive with you. That's probably what inherently it comes down to.
Now, I wonder why Embiid also is not loved by many.
His personality.
I get exhaustion. Exhaustion, I totally understand. Like, if people want to move on because they're tired of it, I don't blame anyone at this point. But, like, the whole, like, the Philly guy thing, like, he does play through injuries and gives it his all and all that kind of stuff. So Kevin Cooney, our own Kevin Cooney, chimed in. He said the reason people don't view Embiid as a Philly guy is because of the way the organization has handled him through the years. That sense that he's been babied, fairly or not, really hurts any toughness he may have. Well, it's not his fault the way the organization handled him. He's not
You mean
wrong.
Initially?
Like, Embiid and Simmons walked on water. You know it better than I do.
Yeah.
He walked on water inside the Wells Fargo Center or the practice facility in Camden. Trust me, I've heard stories, okay? But just because the organization babied him and he gets hurt and then plays through it, why is that his fault?
I mean, the man has worn masks. We all remember the Phantom of the Process.
Yeah.
He had Bell's palsy and played through that. He came back early from his knee injury last year to try to help them in the playoffs. I get it. As you said, the exhaustion over the number of injuries is real, and it has to be. There's no one more exhausted probably than the player himself, I'll say, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But to say that he hasn't tried and hasn't given his all or whatever people want to say, like, I feel like he's just, soft. I don't know how you have that if you really look at it as a whole. If you put his situation on a different player that maybe you don't have a preconceived notion from because of how they handled him in the beginning,
right?
I think you would look at him differently.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't his fault that they didn't want him to play, the minutes restriction. Honestly, everybody should have fallen in love with him, even though it was dumb. when they took him out of the game because of the minutes restriction? He started kicking the bench.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, don't do that
Yeah,
with the foot.
With the foot.
That has kept you
We
out for
just
2
got
years.
the foot back.
Stop. But he showed his emotion because he wanted to keep
shows the
on
emotion.
playing. And so I don't know why that's like forgotten about. I get it. The exhaustion, totally understand, but don't ignore what
I think he's a good.
is actually true.
I've always seen him to be a good teammate, a good player, a guy that cares. The other day when Quentin Grimes dropped 44, who was like the first person dumping water on his head?
Embiid, yeah. He did say he didn't drop 50, though.
Which is great. Like, he loves to
Yeah.
joke with guys.
Yeah,
He gives
exactly.
Tyrese Maxey a hard time, shoot the ball.
Right.
I don't know. And then they're like, oh, he's not at the games. He's sitting at the end of the
Meanwhile,
bench.
we would still sit here and cry at night about Jimmy Butler. And it's like,
Oh, talk. No.
you know, like, it's the Wolverine meme where it's Wolverine's touching the picture. It's Sixers fans with Jimmy Butler. You know, like,
This was James Butler.
The adult in the room.
My name's Jimmy.
My name's actually Jimmy.
That was a iconic moment in process. Like, that honestly might be one of my favorite moments, and I forget about it sometimes. My name's actually Jimmy.
My name's actually just Jimmy.
Just hilarious.
And people are like, wait, what? I'm like, nope, it's just Jimmy.
All right, coming up next, we'll sneak in some text messages, but also today's headlines with Brendan Gunn comes your way next. It is Kincade Salciunas, Amy in for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Sixers win. Play that song.
The Philadelphia Flyers.
is filling in for John today. I'm rocking my my Moyer Indoor Outdoor shirt today. My
I saw
friends
that.
over at Moyer Indoor Outdoor, they stopped by yesterday to start putting the fertilizer on the grass. I've never done that. This is another new check mark in the I'm now an adult category.
With your lawn care?
Yeah, because since I moved to this house 3 years ago, I've maintained the lawn to the best of my own personal ability.
Did you ever fertilize it yourself?
No.
Okay.
No. When
Copy that. You
when
just
I had an infant,
voted,
I
and that
didn't
was it.
care.
Yeah.
When he turned 1, I didn't care. Now, as he's about to enter his 3rd summer and a summer where he's now much more active,
Yeah, wants to play in that grass.
I want to not have like the prickly grass, the crabgrass. So they came out and seeded the lawn yesterday. And by the way, my man Bill McHugh, who's one of the big owners at Moyer, happy birthday to him.
Oh, happy birthday.
He went down to Clearwater
That's
to
a good
celebrate.
way to celebrate them.
Group of like 10 of his buddies. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Like, one day.
That'll be you one day.
One day, I would like to do something like that. All right, Gunnar, give us one more text before we go to today's headlines, because I want to know what the people are saying about our topics, about liking who we like and not liking who we don't like, and why that is for certain players, because I'm confused by it sometimes.
Yeah, we got Charles in the Northeast checking in, says Slay has always been a me guy. Can we talk about Slay's fake injury and surgery when Matt Patricia was named D coordinator, and then he only came back for that one playoff game? That was suspect.
I would never, ever, ever question if somebody actually
Yeah,
had
for people,
a
I did
procedure
the
or not.
quote unquote with the fakes for the people listening.
Yeah,
'Cause,
like-
I don't buy into that either.
Like, come on. Never do that.
Listen, that's a little much.
Yeah, never do that. Now, I understand that it was, what a coincidence. Patricia becomes the DC and now he's not playing. I understand why somebody's mind would go that way. Like, I don't think.
Because we had talked, it was obviously well documented.
Yeah, that they didn't like each other or Slay did not like him. So I get why
Honestly,
he would send that text, but I
let's-
would never question somebody's injury, whether it's real or not real.
If you're looking at who came out better, Matt Patricia or Darius Slay at the end.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, what? Does that texter mean to side with Patricia?
Pencil pusher?
Like, that's the thing.
Does
like,
he just think that Slay was, I don't know.
like,
That seems a little far-reaching.
I just,
To me.
Yeah.
We've seen
Bit of a
Slay
stretch.
go out there and battle through injuries like multiple
this year,
times.
yeah.
Like, yeah, all this year he was going out there, coming up hurt, going back into the game.
By the way, the me guy that he says in the fake injuries, he played 15. When did they go to 17 games?
3 years ago.
All right, so he played 15 of 16 games in 2020. He played all 16 games in 2021. He played all 17 games in 2022. So far in his first 3 seasons, he missed 1 game. In 2023, he missed 5 games. And then last year was 3 games total in the regular season. The last game, of course, was the we're not playing anybody game.
Right. So some of those are a little bit skewed.
2020, was that the Buccaneers? They lost to the Bucs playoff game?
That was 2021 into 2022.
All right, so he
yeah.
he legitimately missed a game because of injury. So Darius Slay in his time here has missed very few.
Played 90+%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the me stuff, it comes from his comments like you illuminated earlier.
Which we'll
And that's-
play in the next segment.
And those are fine. He said things like that in the past. We talked about the Josh Jobe thing. We talked about at the end of the Bucs loss, 2 years ago. I didn't do that. I didn't. All right. Again, I think you can have both. You can be frustrated with him not being, super team oriented when he's giving out criticism.
Yeah.
But you can't overlook the things that he's done that are team oriented, like bringing a mentor to Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and taking on the leadership role and being on a leadership council and being voted captain for 3 years in a row.
Right. Let's not ignore.
You can
Those
have
things.
both. There are two sides to a coin. The coin still pays.
We will go through it all the drama that unfolded coming up in the next segment. But it is time now for today's headlines with Brendan Gunn.
Today's headlines with the one and only Brendan Gunn.
The one and only. Brought to us
Yes.
by who, Brendan?
Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name, Lundy Law, your injury lawyers. Visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com.
Love that.
Well, last week, the NFL Combine took place. It wrapped up last weekend, and our friend of the program, Jeff McClain, was down there. And all offseason long, we've been talking about how maybe the Eagles will have all 11 starters back on the offensive side of the ball if Mekhi Becton, who we talked about earlier, comes back. Well, maybe not. And maybe the guy that's not going to be here is signed to a contract still for next season. Jeff was asking some people down there, and this is he ran into this.
I had several leads on potential stories as the week moved into day 3. One of those tips came via an agent I had known for years that I ran into. He was convinced the Eagles wouldn't be bringing back tight end Dallas Goedert and had offered information that suggested as much.
Yeah, so I saw this yesterday, and I get it, final year of his deal, so that's usually never a good thing in the NFL. I don't see why they would not want to try to keep him for this last year. If Dallas Goedert wants to have a contract for years moving forward, all right, I understand. Even though the injuries are becoming a bit of a problem, the dude is still spectacular. And so if I'm the Eagles, all right, hey, Dallas, we want you. Let's sign you to a 2-year deal.
What can we work out?
I'm not signing him to like a 4-year deal because he is 30, and I think he turns 31 during the season.
Yeah, 2 years older than Zach Ertz was when they drafted Dallas Goedert to replace Ertz.
Yeah.
But like, as great as Grant Calcaterra was in the limited times that he filled in, there is still a difference between Calcaterra and Goddard. You saw that in the playoffs. You saw how that unfolded. I'm not looking to quickly let him leave. I would actually be pretty disappointed if Dallas Goedert's not on the Eagles next season.
Yeah, especially what he said after the Super Bowl to Jalen Carter, let's go back and run it back and win 2 in a row.
Yeah. Like I would be pretty disappointed in the Eagles if that were to happen, if they can't work out some sort of deal where it's, hey, 2-year extension, but obviously the third year is like nothing.
Right. To me, what's more valuable? Having Dallas Goedert on the team next year as above a replacement level, or getting, a 4th-round pick back for him at best?
Yeah. And look, they're going to draft a tight end, I would imagine, this year. Yeah. And then that guy's waiting in the wing, just like the Eagles have always done with tight ends.
And you bring him along. He's a great blocker. He's an important part of your offense. Jalen Hurts is comfortable with him.
Yeah. And we finally saw him become comfortable. He did not look his way, and then finally did, and all of a sudden Goddard's play raised as well. I don't understand why that would happen. I respect Jeff's reporting. It probably is true. I would not be happy if that ended up happening.
Yeah, that audio was courtesy of his podcast, Uncovering the Birds. Check it out if you haven't. Yesterday, though, the Sixers, they sent out their 2025-2026 season ticket email. And as negative as the season has been this year, I think people are going to like this. And they at the end of the message, it said, as we prepare for the 2025-2026 season, we're drawing inspiration from a team that personified the type of grit and tenacity required to compete for a championship. The 2001 76ers, led by Allen Iverson. Throughout the upcoming season next year, we will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of our NBA Finals team by honoring their legacy with exclusive events, theme celebrations, and special recognitions. We think you'll like the uniforms we'll wear on the court next season, too.
So I saw a very funny tweet from Kyle Neubeck yesterday. They sent out that what you just read. He posted that. And if you're a SpongeBob fan, all reliable, SpongeBob opens it up and it's a picture of Iverson in the old jersey. Like, hey, come back. Here's the deal. As funny as that tweet was, this was probably in the works for a while. Like, it's 25 years. Like, kind of writes itself, like 25-year anniversary. We're going to do some stuff honoring that old team. We all wanted it last
year after the Maxi Museum. He had his own jersey of the black.
Yeah, the Slam magazine cover in the black one.
Yeah. He had the Maxi jersey, the black Maxi jersey, and everybody's like, are they coming this year?
Oh, they're bringing it back, yeah.
And they made the white Spectrum ones, which I love.
Yeah.
The Spectrum logo was such a great, iconic logo. I'm so glad they have that now in navy and white, and I thought it was great. But yeah, 25 years, 2001,
Yeah, it makes sense. I would go to a game if it's something special, because that was literally that was my coming into becoming a sports fan.
Well, and when they do it, when they do the throwback games, the logo changes on the court.
Yeah, which is really cool.
So I'd imagine that's gonna be how it is. So the old school with the star.
Oh yeah, love the swoosh.
Right, I
love that.
That'll be on the court.
Yes,
great.
All right, I'll wrap it up quickly with the replay.
What makes us love or not rock with a player? Love or not love? And then when it comes to Darius Slay specifically, what's the beef? Where did it start?
Where do expectations come in with how we love a player? Like, Darius Slay came in after years and years and years of bad cornerback play, so his expectations were high, and I guess the only place you could go was down. So every time he got beat, people had nightmares of Nnamdi Asomugha getting toasted, right?
Maybe.
And when you think of a Garrett Stubbs, there's no expectation, or a TJ McConnell, there's nothing, so anything they give you is a plus.
Well, I don't think I'm breaking any ground here, and I think this is the way it's supposed to be. You hold your better players to a higher standard.
Yeah.
But it sometimes gets to the point where people are nasty about the top players and because
you have there's some Bryce Harper with his Fanatic tattoo.
Yeah.
You got to win a championship in order to get a Fanatic tattoo?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just people
Seems like
hold
he really
certain
likes the green guy.
people.
I love him.
People hold certain people accountable and others don't, and I get it because you're not going to hold Garrett Stubbs. It's like the Johan Rojas thing last year. Oh, if the Phillies are losing because Rojas is in the lineup, then that means the rest of the team. And it's like, yeah, you're right, but he is also a starting nine.
He's a functioning member of the team.
Yeah, so he needs to play well.
He needs to function.
Like, let's also hold another Major League Baseball player accountable
for playing the game that he's paid to do.
But sometimes we don't do that with certain
Because we
players.
like who we like.
Absolutely, Amy. All right, coming up next, we'll get to the beginning of all of this, at least for this week's sake. We'll play you some clips from Darius Slay's podcast that kind of started this storm. We'll read you the tweet that he put out yesterday explaining himself. We'll read you the tweets from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a whole lot more. Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was a quiet day on that front, but not so much on social media. CJ Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast and voiced his displeasure on Twitter. Then A.J. Brown took issue with some Eagles fans on Twitter and now deleted tweets. Ultimately, though, hopefully nothing too serious once next week rolls around. Next week, we could see some new additions to the team as the free agency period opens with legal tampering on Monday. The Sixers, they lost to the Celtics last night by a score of 123-105. They were without both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. The Sixers hit the court again this Sunday to take on the Utah Jazz down at the Wells Fargo Center. And the Flyers, they lost to the Winnipeg Jets last night by a score of 4-1. But today could be much more important for them as the NHL trade deadline is today at 3 p.m. We'll have any news on that front all show long, all day long, right here on the home of the Flyers, the Fanatic. This update was brought to you by Rapid Radios. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage for a limited time. Go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry. You can still...
that started earlier this week, obviously with the Slay podcast. In case you've missed it, or in case you've missed some of the updates, in case you didn't see the deleted tweets by A.J. Brown, Darius Slay didn't delete the tweets. His Twitter account is now protected. So we'll update you on all of this about the Super Bowl champions that won less than a month ago. And again, I'm doing this reacting. I'm not trying to drum anything up. All right, oh, the media. Oh. It's once again, this team starts it. Thank God they won the Super Bowl, man. 'Cause if they didn't win the Super Bowl,
we'd be losing our minds.
And look, Slay would have still been probably released, and they're for cap space purposes, we'd be going crazy. So we'll start with Darius Slay. Earlier in the week, he was being asked about, or he was talking about, it's his podcast, about, what would happen if he were to leave and how would the leadership of the team be. And here he was talking glowingly of Reed Blankenship.
I do got a great leadership role in that secondary room, but I won't be surprised if Reed and them guys like Reed can, advance these guys. Reed being around me and a lot of other veterans that have been here before, and I'm sure he could lead that group the right way. So that's who I feel will be leading the group if I ain't in that building is Reed Blankenship, because he's a great leader. You know what I'm saying? He is a great damn leader. If they bring another veteran in that's already been playing a lot, I can see them coming in and being a leader as well. But for sure, if I'm not in that room, Reed Blankenship, will be a great, tremendous leader, a great one. And, I'm going to miss it.
So here's the deal. I understand why Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would get upset when he's talked about, bringing in another veteran to help be a leader. But at one point, I didn't hear that clip right away, right? And I was reading just people on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I saw something like, man, he went out of his way to credit.
I thought that was a great line. I thought he was doing, to me, I was like, all right, here's one of the reasons he was voted on the leadership council.
Yeah.
And as a captain. I thought it was great.
And then people go over the top. I was reading tweets like, man, he went out of his way to talk about Keely Ringo and all the other guys. And it's like, that clip, that was just Reed Blankenship.
Yeah, multiple times. A guy who worked closely with on said council of leaders.
He spoke specifically about one player. I don't know where other people were getting that he was talking about everybody other than Darius Slay. So then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson went on social media and just went nuts. And I just found out those tweets have since been deleted. I did not know that. The only one that's still up there is the not a crash out, just keeping it real. And
real.
You were
deleted.
You were kind of crashing out, man. It's okay. At one point, one of the tweets he says is, vet presence is always needed. Don't get me wrong. But, bro, what vet is needed when young guys can hold their own like Q and Coop, and you got a crazy duo with Reed and me, and the supporting cast of Ringo, Zay, Andre Sam, Eli, Sidney, Tristan. Stay with the youth, if you ask me. He then went on to Twitter and said, the last time you brought in a veteran to try to replace me, you guys got to the wild card round. Darius Slay was never talking about replacing you. He was talking about bringing in a leader. And so Darius Slay then had to eventually address it on Twitter because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson kept on going and kept on retweeting tweets about Darius Slay.
Yeah, remember when they were terrible and you came back and helped them. It's just, to me, the Slay thing was okay, if you're not here in Philadelphia, your secondary was so good, it was so bad, and now it's so good. Is it going to be okay? That's the genesis of the talking point.
Right.
The answer, I thought, answered that. I think we're going to be good. I think they're going to be fine. There's a lot of leaders still in that secondary. Here's a guy that I worked with in Reed Blankenship.
And
Let's talk a little bit about Reed.
The worked with part, if you guys missed Darius Slay, go on Twitter, because before Slay tweeted out, he was already public enemy number one, again, because people don't like him for whatever reason in this city.
I'm telling you, watch the clip of him getting the key to his hometown. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. So he goes on Twitter.
It won't change anybody's mind, but
he says, we just won a Super Bowl together. I do not have a problem or hate towards bruh, and he's talking about CJGJ. Reed is in our leadership council, which is why I said what I said. I would expect him to be the next guy up. It's nothing but love on my end. If you really know me, y'all have a blessed day. So there's a reason why he was saying Reed Blankenship specifically, because he was in whatever this leadership council is that Nick Sirianni has. It's not just the captains. I imagine some other players as well. So leadership council. Reed Blankenship was in it. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was not. That's why he was talking about Reed Blankenship. But people thought this was a slight toward CJ GJ himself thought it was a slight toward him. And then A.J. Brown goes on Twitter and picks a bone with you, the Eagles fan, saying Eagles community is so messy. Y'all pick sides if it's not your favorite player. That's weird behavior, for real. It's like high school all over again. This isn't even my fight to fight. Y'all speculate instead of taking what the person just said, then go on your pages and create articles until the national media catches it. Y'all always be blaming the media, and it's really y'all. So, one of the other clips that people were really upset about, and we'll play it for you here. Darius Slay somehow got into the elite quarterbacks conversation, and take a listen to the names that he said.
The elite go to the top 4 guys. You know what I'm saying? That's how I do elites. And like elite for me in the quarterback world is Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh Allen. Them are the elites. They got their own, you know what I'm saying?
So he didn't mention Jalen. Now he spoke before that part of the clip about he likes Jalen a lot.
Yeah.
He just has a elite 4. Like a Mount Rushmore, right? The old sports talk radio. It's August. I need to find something to talk about. Let's do the Mount Rushmore show, right? Just yesterday, I said on this show, those are the 4 guys that if you redrafted the league, those are the first 4 guys off the board, even before other position players. So he's not. I mean, that's his opinion, and I get that people were upset.
There's some people that might have put. And if you ask people that have problems with that, they're like, "Well, I would have Jalen Hurts 4." Okay. But also, he did go on Twitter and he said, and he posted clips, or I think he reposted clips, and someone had tweeted him about him singing Jalen Hurts' praises and said, I am the biggest fan of my guy.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan. It was like 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan of my guy.
He's got a top 4. And it's like.
You can still have a top 4.
And like if I asked Brendan Gunn and I said, hey, Brendan, who's your favorite Philadelphia sports radio host of all time? Because here's the deal. People are like, hey, he should have said Jalen because they're teammates. If Brendan said Andrew Salciunas, I would call you an idiot. All right?
Amy Fiddle, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Clearly, I'm right here.
There are legends. There are elite of elites. Even though I'm up there, but you know. Like when I hear Darius Slay say that, why should he say Jalen just because he's teammates with them? He's trying to get in the media. Like, this is, I don't know.
He can have an opinion. He can still love Jalen Hurts and think that Josh Allen's better than him.
Yes. Yeah. That's allowed. Believe it or not, it is allowed.
I love that guy.
Is this just something because podcasts are new? Like in 15 years, are people going to care about these kind of things anymore?
Yes.
Yeah,
because they're going to say stuff like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's still going to be cared about. I mean,
I
look,
get your point,
look,
but yeah.
Paul George sacrificed his this year to get back to winning ways, so it's important. All right, coming up next, we'll check our text messages on today's topics. Explain to me the beef with Darius Slay from the very beginning, and of course, why do we like certain players and dislike others? And we mentioned Trey Hendrickson earlier today because of what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing, and that's why we love the Eagles as an organization. Is there any chance that he comes here? I read an article where the Birds are one of the options. We'll get into that coming up next. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Amy in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatic's Knockout Tournament is back Wednesday, March 26th.
It's time for
here on Kincade Salciunas 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul is filling in for Johnny today. Johnny will be back on Monday. I was on the website of your other place of business, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, earlier today.
Good site.
And that's where I found this article that Trey Hendrickson is in, and so are the Eagles. Now, this is not from Dave or Rube. I don't know if you've ever met Sanjesh Singh.
Oh, yes.
So Sanjesh does like the content, and it
just
gets posted on the different NBC.
It's a culling of
yes,
the
exactly.
national type of thing.
So this was not Dave or Rube talking about Trey Hendrickson and the Eagles as a potential landing spot. So this one I take with a little bit of a grain of salt because I think, and I'll read you the reasoning, but I'm going to guarantee you, without reading it ahead of time, well, Howie Roseman. That's probably why the Eagles are mentioned. So here are the 5 teams that are mentioned in the piece. The Chargers makes sense as they are losing both Khalil Mack probably and Joey Bosa, who they just released. The Chicago Bears,
who I think are in the market for anything.
Correct. And look, good for them. They've been very active this offseason. I'm going to be fascinated to see what that offensive line looks like. They have a totally new look line
because they were atrocious.
Well, and it goes back to like
it goes back.
I always complain about.
You mentioned Khalil Mack.
Yeah,
it goes back.
But I complain about roster construction. I am an Eagles fan, but I am a football fan as well. Like I am a sports fan, and there are times where I am offended by general managers and decisions that they make. Like offended. Like you are offending my sports intelligence, and I know the paychecks that you're getting, and I get paid far less to complain about your decisions. Not just here, Philadelphia. I pay attention to all the teams and all the sports, right? You draft a franchise quarterback, great, and you give him no protection.
None.
Like,
look at the Giants.
It makes no sense.
I mean, it seems so simple.
Like, if you think about it, so free agency happens before the draft. You know that you're drafting number 1 overall. So you know that you're most likely drafting Caleb Williams.
You know you're going to take a quarterback.
It's either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. You are making that decision probably the second the season came to an end.
So a month before,
you could sign an offensive lineman.
Why not sign a wide receiver who you can't get the ball to because you don't have time to throw it to him?
Like, that's the thing that I don't understand. Like, it shouldn't be rocket science. Like,
we'll just find one.
We are going to draft a quarterback. We know that we are doing that.
A guy who's going to be our franchise guy.
So let's sign an offensive lineman beforehand. You're not going to be able to sign all 5. I get it.
Pick one.
But the plan should be, all right, let's sign maybe the left tackle that should protect his blind spot. And we know in the second round we'll draft a guard or a right tackle or, we know that we're going to bring in a vet.
Don't forget they had a second top 10 pick and picked another wide receiver. They signed Keenan Allen, and then they picked Roma Dunze.
Yeah, which I don't understand why teams do that.
That's the Bears. The Bears also traded up for Mitchell Trubisky.
Yes, they did. And traded a haul.
A lot.
To get Mitchell Trubisky. That was when the draft was here.
I remember.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember being on the set, and I was talking to Ray Didinger.
Yeah.
And he's making some very eloquent point, and I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
As of course he is, the man, encyclopedia. And my producer gets in my ear and is like, the Bears just traded up for Mitchell Trubisky. And I audibly said, what? And I just look at Ray. I was like, I hate to interrupt you, Ray, but I have to tell you. He looked at me and he said, they did what?
Yeah.
Ray Didinger was like, they did what? I was like, I'm telling you, that's what they did. No. Yeah.
They're
We're live on air, and I'm like, this is happening right now.
And teams are obviously obsessed with the quarterbacks. I was listening to our overnight when I was prepping the show, and Mel Kiper straight up saying, the quarterbacks are going to go 1-2, and I don't have them until like 10 on my
They're not
my big
good.
board. But teams are obsessed.
And you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you box yourself in because of picks like that. Go ahead, sorry.
So Hendrickson, they have the Chargers, they have the Bears, a team to keep an eye on, the Washington Commanders. Now, here's the thing that I will probably hesitate to say the Commanders are a legit threat. They have so many holes to fill.
They got an entire roster. They had all 1-year contract.
That's why I think they take a step back this year. You can't bat 1,000 in back-to-back years with every offseason addition.
I think they'll be good, but yeah, I don't
They'll be
think they're
good. They'll probably win double-digit games, but I don't think it's going to be the fight for the division like it seemed like it was at times last year. The Colts come in on this list, sure, and then the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is what they wrote. Could the Super Bowl champions make a statement? The Eagles could lose Josh Sweat and Milton Williams in free agency, so there is room for an addition to the defensive line. The tricky aspect may be penning Hendrickson to a long-term deal, but with Howie Roseman as the general manager, anything is possible. Off the heels of the lucrative extensions for Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond, Hendrickson would further bolster Philadelphia's title defense bid, which is why, Myles Garrett, yes, they should be on him. Max Crosby, they should have been in on him before he extended his contract because he wanted to go to a winning situation, so he stayed with the Raiders. There's a lot of ends that they should be in on, including Hendrickson. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, and the long-term contract, obviously, what they need to look at. Howie Roseman has always been able to get guys here under market value when it all comes out in the wash, right? He signs A.J. Brown to a deal that looks so great, and it is great, and then you see all these other you really got him on a sweetheart of a deal.
And
Jalen Hurts too.
I know John was against the Garrett idea because you're going to probably extend him another 2 years. He'd be like 33, 34.
I'll take
Hendrickson. Me too.
Garrett at 33.
Me too. Me too. It's almost as bad as the Allen Iverson thing. But Trey Hendrickson is a whole year older. So, if there are people that agreed with John about the age thing, then you're not getting Hendrickson because he's a year 35. Older, and you're going to have to extend him as well. All right, we'll reset the show. Coming up next, it is Kincade and Salciunas. Amy is filling in for John today. Johnny will be back on Monday here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was a quiet day on that front, but not so much on social media. C.J. Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast earlier in the week and voiced his displeasure on Twitter yesterday. Then A.J. Brown also took an issue with some Eagles fans on Twitter and now deleted tweets. Ultimately, hopefully it's nothing too serious once next week rolls around. And next week, we could see some new additions to the team as free agency opens with the legal tampering period on Monday, and then they can officially sign players on Wednesday. The Sixers, they fell to the Celtics last night by a score of 123-105. They were without both Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. The Sixers hit the court again this Sunday to take on the Utah Jazz down at the Wells Fargo Center. And the Flyers, they lost last night as well to the Winnipeg Jets 4-1. But today could be much more important for the team as the NHL trade deadline is today at 3 p.m. We'll keep you updated all show long, all day long, right here on the home of the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic, with any news that surrounds the trade deadline and the Flyers. This update was brought to you by Moyer Indoor and Outdoor Services. Our guy Andrew Salciunas is wearing the Moyer Indoor and Outdoor Services shirt today. Follow his lead and get a jump on a lush green lawn this spring right now. Go to emoyer.com for free estimates. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia Union Soccer.
Tapped in for Ty Murray.
on a football. I haven't called it a Championship Friday yet today.
I can't
That's
believe
bad work by me. It's a Championship
You mentioned
Friday.
it at the beginning, but I think we moved so quickly into the whole.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't feel like it today. Honestly.
But Darius reminded us, hey, listen, we just won a championship. It's all good, everyone. It's all good.
They won the Super Bowl less than a month ago, and I'm already dealing with nonsense.
All good.
I'm already dealing with beefs. I'm already dealing with drama. Like, man, can't we just have fun for a little bit longer? Can we wait until April?
Can't have nice things.
Like, seriously. Like, March Madness is supposed to be about basketball, not about the Eagles' locker room.
Well done.
Thank you. I'm
done.
actually proud of myself for
You
that one.
should be.
All right, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic WP at HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. And as you can imagine, we've been talking more about the Darius Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson disconnect that took place yesterday on social media. A.J. Brown taking shots at fans yesterday. And what I'm just trying to figure out is what makes us like certain players, what makes us not like certain players. So I hated Sean Rodriguez, former Philly. Hated him. Remember when he called the Phillies fans entitled?
Entitled.
And then the next game, he actually got hit by a pitch, and the fans cheered.
So bad.
Which is wild. And then I remember Mrs. Rodriguez went on social media and was like bashing.
Can't do that to, yeah.
And like, kind of understand, like we were cheering a guy that could have potentially gotten hurt on our own team. Like, I get it why she would defend her husband, but what he said was ridiculous. But here's the deal. Sean Rodriguez saying that, being like a nobody that people didn't really like, gets bashed. A.J. Brown straight up called out fans yesterday.
It's like, y'all are messy.
And people were going to be
y'all
like,
are wrong.
It's all good, A.J. We love you. And so it goes back to it. Certain players can do and say certain things. Other players can't. And
it's weird because I kind of agreed with AJ when you go on the Eagles, quote unquote, Eagles Twitter. Like, it is kind of crazy sometimes.
It is.
But again, that's any fan base.
Yeah.
Like, name me the fan base that doesn't have people that go over the top on things all the time. I still remember the double doink. Look at Cody Parkey's mentions from that day from Bears fans. Like, it was horrible things that were being said by people that weren't even they didn't even have the egg. Like, it was their,
legitimate
their
with
faces,
their faces.
like,
and employers in the bio.
Yeah, saying horrible things about Cody Parkey. So it happens everywhere. Like, it's probably messy online everywhere if you live online, which A.J. Brown does. A lot of players live online to a fault, and they see a lot of this stuff that probably they shouldn't see.
There's a big player that lives online is Kevin Durant.
Oh, yeah.
He's really messy.
Either
on
his
Twitter.
account or his burners. Like,
Either way. Yeah, he's online so much he's got multiple online.
But it's funny, we had a wide receiver here who lived online too, and he got ran out of town because he was no good.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor.
Well, that's
Nobody
what
liked
it
him.
is. Yeah.
People like AJ Brown.
And so I'm trying to figure out why is it that certain players are loved, certain players aren't. And, like, you can't, like, yeah, A.J. Brown puts forth a lot of effort. Yeah. So does Darius Slay. Darius Slay doesn't go through the motions. I had a guy the other day. I don't know if it was when you were in on Tuesday or not, but we had a texter that Brendan read that they didn't like Joel Embiid because he just goes through the motions.
Oh, yeah, I was on.
And I'm like, just goes through the motions and led the league in scoring? Like,
2 years in a row.
That's pretty impressive.
MVP candidate 3
so
years
if
in
he
a row.
tried hard, he'd be Wilt? Is that what you're...
70 points.
Like, that's what I don't get. Like, why is it... Oh,
Listen, when he rolls out of the bed, he
motions?
does get you 30 points, and that's impressive.
That is true.
That's impressive.
So what are the people saying on the text line about our topic about what makes us love certain players, what makes us dislike certain players? Because it is strange to hear that some people just love certain players and they'll say horrible things about another, and they all kind of do the same thing. They play hard, they win.
Yeah, we got Andrew in Georgia checking in saying likability is odd and hard to rationalize. People go with their gut. We don't really know these athletes, but we can form opinions based off their play, body language, press conferences, and tweets. All that really matters is I like you, though, Andrew, and I don't know you either.
Well, that's because Andrew and I have been talking to each other for years. My man Andrew from Georgia.
He likes you. He likes
believe it or not,
cut of your jib.
He and John are like the one separation. Like, John Kincade knows buddies that Andrew from Georgia has. Believe it or not, John knows people in Atlanta.
Shocking.
Yeah, but it's amazing. Like, he's not wrong. We can only base things off of what we see in public. And
it's your perception of that.
Yeah.
You can watch the same press conference as people did, the same podcast even with Darius Slay and come away with totally different opinions of it.
Right. Nick Sirianni's introductory press conference.
Oh, no, there's only one opinion of that.
No, but here's the deal. I took it as, yeah, that was really bad.
But
I'm not going to determine if he's a good coach or not. There are people.
But you all knew it was a bad press conference.
I know a person that was in this building that straight up said, yeah, he's not going to cut it.
From the
press conference.
They just thought he couldn't coach because of the press conference?
That was it.
That's a big leap.
And I was just like,
listen, I don't care if you win the press conference because I know there's coaches that have been coaches here in Philadelphia. Coach Soundbite. There's a couple people we called that Coach Soundbite. They would win the press conference. Who cares if you win the press conference?
Yeah, are you winning games?
Yep. I mean, you want to obviously both. That's the end of the day. But great, you won the press conference.
Name me the great Charlie Manuel press conference.
Still looking for it.
One of the best managers in the history of the franchise.
He did not have a very good first impression here.
No, but he won, and that's like
winning cures all.
Why? What else we got, Gunner?
Yeah, we got somebody checking in saying we don't always agree. We don't rock with Slay because he's not a good leader. If he was just a guy and not a captain, we wouldn't care what he had to say.
Yeah, but
how's he not a good leader if he's a captain?
How is he not a good leader if he's a captain?
And he's also on the leadership council.
And Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean speak glowingly of him. Like,
listen,
I feel like
you just don't like him, and that's okay.
Yeah, this is one of those battles where
I just think that you can have both. That's what I understand. You can disagree with him being the me guy when he has those comments about like, oh, that wasn't my coverage, and that's Job's guy. You can absolutely disagree with it, but you can't overlook the other things that he's shown where he's a team guy.
Right. Like, this is one of these conversations where it'll end up being we'll agree to disagree. Yeah. And I'll go, all right, fine, but I still think you're wrong.
Yeah.
When it's not me saying it. I don't know. I've never been in proximity with Darius Slay. Closest proximity was when I went to an Eagles game, and he was playing on the field. Closest proximity, right? I don't know what Darius Slay's like, but I believe Quinyon Mitchell knows who he's like. I believe Cooper DeJean knows who he's like. I believe Nick Sirianni, who built the Leadership Council, knows who he's like. And there's a reason why they speak highly of him, and there's a reason why he's in the Leadership Council, and there's a reason why players respect the hell out of him outside of Philadelphia. Remember the same game where Avante Maddox was, hey, Mike, you want to play Fortnite later? Very bad look. You know that Mike Evans went up to Darius Slay and was like, hey, man, I really respect you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You're 12.
We've been doing this a long time. I got a lot of respect for you.
There's respect for him.
Yeah.
So, you know.
We'll take those guys' word for it. But I get it. People just don't like his demeanor.
He's not a good leader, but he's a captain and the players love him. All right, give us one more text.
Yeah, we got a no name here on this one, but he says people don't like prima donnas like Slay and Embiid. Also, Embiid gives poor effort in multiple playoff games. Slay doesn't do that necessarily. We root for them, but let's not act like Embiid hasn't shown up in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
Necessarily. I didn't think that was not. You didn't need to include that, did you?
What? The Darius Slay necessarily?
Slay, he hasn't necessarily not shown up.
Like, no, he's shown up every single time.
He hasn't necessarily shown up is basically what that sentence says.
Yeah, that's weird. Embiid, there is one game where I will ever legitimately question his effort, and that's Game 7 against the Celtics. Like, effort. Bad play doesn't mean he didn't put forth effort. Like, the game against the Hawks, he had, 6 or 7 turnovers in it? Like, that wasn't because he wasn't trying. He was just very bad that game.
It happens.
But that Game 7 was, and that's probably a game that's on a lot of people's mind when they think back to Embiid. Like, John and I talked about this last week. He asked me, when you think of Embiid, let's say it's all done, what's your first thoughts? And my first thought was 70 points. My second thought was his debut because I was there, bought tickets for it. I sat up in the damn rafters. I just wanted to be in the building when Embiid played his first game against the Thunder. I needed to be there. John's first thought was Game 7.
Really?
Yeah. Now, John and I are very different when it comes to the Sixers and Joel Embiid and the sport of basketball. And so, I'm not surprised that that's where he goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people that
your
agree
very
with
first
him.
thought is a playoff series against.
He went to Hawks too, Hawks series, because those were the years they were supposed to Look, they were.
But then do you go to the Raptors series?
No, he doesn't go there. That's not his first.
See, that's what I don't understand. Like, why you can go both. I think the Raptors series really changed him personally.
Yeah.
I think it changed him for the better. But I don't know how you can't look at how his failures in the postseason, if you want to characterize the play with them with Game 7 against the Celtics and Game 6 against the Hawks, I guess it was. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think you could probably point to some other things if you wanted. I don't know. I think you have to look at 2019 Raptors series too.
Yeah, I will say that Raptors series changed me too. I found out what the term gastroenteritis was. Learned that one. That became a big staple in the lexicon of words. I learned lexicon from Jim Schwartz. He said that in like a press conference. I was like, "What the hell is that word?" Google lexicon. So I just threw gastroenteritis and lexicon at you from two different people in a minute. All right, coming up next. I don't believe that sports are rigged, Amy. Okay? I don't believe that there's like a script or anything like that. But something almost feels like it is. We'll talk about that next. It is Kincade Salciunas, Amy in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
My lineup has always been Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber.
11 here on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amy Fadul filling in for John today. John will be back from the Caribbean on Monday.
Walking into Hot Take Central.
Yeah, going to be curious to see who the first person is that brings that up.
I'll call in.
I need somebody to bring it up. It needs
Call
to
in
be
Monday. Be like, tell me more about your thoughts about non-elite athletes like Roy Halladay and Allen Iverson, John.
I saw.
He'll be like, you're right.
I saw a local,
No, you're wrong.
A local podcast react to it yesterday. So it's making its rounds. Curious to see how Johnny reacts when he gets here.
My brain feels empty.
Like the Halladay one. Like I kind of understood what he was trying to get at. Like he's thinking of elite Philadelphia athletes, and he says that the longevity of it's a big part of it. And Halladay had one all-time season, another very good season, and then the wheels started falling off.
So Iverson was here for a decade, but
That's
his
the thing.
detracting was he didn't work hard enough. Halladay wasn't here long enough, but he worked harder than anybody ever.
Too hard.
Yeah.
And it discounts everything he did before he got here because his elite status can only happen in the confines of this area code.
Yeah.
The 215, if he was in a different place, you're elite. You're not an athlete until you arrive here.
I get what he's saying. Like it's like if you did the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, right? Like this guy played 8 years and was a 4-time All-Star and Hall of Fame in their sport and blah blah
So
blah.
you only give him credit when he was wearing a uniform.
Yeah, he wasn't saying that Roy Halladay was not an elite player. He just wouldn't
I don't
put
even
him
think he thought he was
in
an
his
athlete.
And I get that's the rule for most people. Like Chris Webber came here. He's an elite player all time. He's not elite
Right,
here.
he's not elite
But
sixer.
Roy Halladay, what he did
he was
here.
still elite here. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up because Philadelphia, we had such an issue here of like we got the guy 4 years too late,
Yeah.
or we got the wrong brother.
Right.
So many times it was
happens all the
like
time,
all
yeah.
the time, and it was like, oh, you got him? Yeah, 6 years after his prime. Roy Halladay want to stop it.
Won a Cy Young, perfect game, no hitter in the playoffs.
Stop it.
Yeah.
He was the best pitcher in baseball every year he was here.
Yeah, so John's not getting away from that one, clearly. I mentioned in the little tease there that I don't believe that sports are rigged or scripted or anything like that. But this one kind of makes me just think a little. All right, if I'm going tinfoil cap.
Okay.
Remember back in the day when the Lakers tried acquiring Chris Paul and the commissioner stepped in and said, no.
Who's not the current commissioner.
Yeah,
Just so you know.
David Stern.
Yes,
he was like,
correct.
no.
Adam
this-
Silver would have been like, yeah.
And so the Luka Doncic trade still amazes me. Like, I love that I get to talk Philadelphia sports for a living. I wish I could talk about Luka for like 5 hours with you because he's my favorite player in the NBA other than Joel
Just
Embiid.
turned 26.
Yeah, just like after the trade happened.
Like a week ago.
He was 25 still with the Mavericks. He
so for an
turned 26.
entire season, basically, almost.
Since acquiring him, the Lakers are on fire. They have won 8 of their last 10 games. Luka Doncic is, triple doubles galore. LeBron James looks like he is 30 again, even though he never looked 40, if we're being honest. And the Lakers have climbed up to the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. The Dallas Mavericks, on the other hand, are plummeting. Obviously, they acquire Anthony Davis, not expecting him to get hurt immediately. But if you were to tell me that you didn't expect him to get hurt,
I'd tell
you'd
you.
be fooling yourself, just like what we do with Joel Embiid. I don't understand how that was allowed. Well, no, why Nico Harrison did it. B, why it was allowed. And it almost feels like so the Lakers are back on the map, huh?
I mean, let's face it. The league is better when the Lakers are doing well
Correct.
and when the Knicks are doing well.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. Top 2 markets, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
The Lakers just... But this is a Lakers thing. Like, it was so strange that the Chris Paul thing didn't happen because, of course, it was going to be the Lakers. They always
Yeah.
get...
It's the Lakers. Yeah.
The amount of free agents they have signed and trades they've been able to pull off over the years is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
We do... Here's a fun fact. So we do like an all-time draft. Like if we're driving in the car or whatever, Shawnee wants to do like, hey, let's just draft like all. You get like all-time Sixers, all-time.
Arnett
So we do that.
Moultrie.
Exactly. So we all go around and you want to have a good team, so you try to think of like different players. And the Sixers, there's 3 of us. We have a decent team. When he chooses the Lakers, Are you kidding me? It's just like you've got 3 separate teams of all-time greats.
Yeah, you could have a G League squad.
It's out of control. So the Lakers getting Luka Doncic, you have to look, and it's hard not to put a tinfoil hat on and be
go,
like, how does that happen?
Yeah, like this, and
someone's like, yeah, that's a
and
good
here's the deal:
idea.
if I'm going dark room, like, look, you guys know what I like to do at night when I put my son to bed, like to zone out a little bit, and my mind
We all
wanders.
fertilize.
I fertilize with things. I like to zone out a little bit.
It's your zen.
It's my zen. I start going like, yeah, LeBron is going to retire soon. And the Lakers already have their next perennial superstar to replace LeBron.
And we're already looking for a new face of the league.
And Luka's 26 years old. And so even though I don't believe the art of sport is rigged, too hard to do that unless you're Terry Rozier, apparently, because that's an interesting story to keep an eye on. Even though the league found nothing, right? But the FBI is looking into it.
Yeah, the FBI, shockingly, might have slightly better investigators.
Yeah. And I know that there was a referee locally that rigged games.
Oh, that's a great documentary.
But that's different. I'm talking about, like, is there some higher power, Adam Silver, going, hey, trade Luka to the Lakers because I need to save the league? Like, no, I don't believe that's the case. But there was a commissioner in the past that did not allow a trade to go through.
He didn't like the super team idea. He didn't want things like that.
And so I can't believe still to this day that the trade happened. And then it makes you think, like, why can't the Sixers have these nice things?
It's amazing that general manager, Nico Harrison, is I can't imagine.
He gets fired after this year, right?
If someone had like a timeline, and I'll find it, and so you can read it out. A timeline of like being a Mavericks fan, of like the Luka trade, AD gets hurt, and then even the secondary trade, Quentin Grimes drops 44, Kyrie Irving. It's like, you know who they would like to have right now with Kyrie Irving lost for the season? Quentin Grimes.
Or Luka Doncic. They would like to have Luka Doncic
because they're in the
Irving's
play-in
out.
tournament and they're not going to be in the
Do you
play-in.
have to let him see the vision through? You already let him trade away the star. Like,
no, if you
what
start,
is the vision? If that's your vision,
seriously.
It's not good.
No,
It's
I want to see your
2060
vision board that had that on it.
And I
This
saw-
is my vision for it. Throw that board away.
I saw, I think it was Tim Bontemps from ESPN saying, don't be surprised, by the way, if Anthony Davis doesn't re-sign. And it's like, could you imagine if...
He's definitely not re-signing.
Could you imagine making that trade for what? A rental?
Did he think he was like, we're going to wow everybody with the Mavs and like Kyrie?
Yeah, the guy you want to build
love
around
Dallas
just
so
tore his
much.
ACL.
Yeah, but how much do you want to build? Like, Kyrie's still exceptional. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's still tremendous. But Kyrie Irving is...
These are two older athletes, though.
He's 32. Like, he's getting up there, too.
Well, listen, they have a better shot than the Lakers, said John.
Yeah, I was going to let that one go. Yeah, we debated that one, too.
That's not a debate. That's a sentence. No.
Yeah, no.
Move on.
All right, coming up
The
next.
complete statement.
Coming up next, back to the Eagles in the NFL. CBS put out an article where they put the most likely free agent or top free agent per every team in the NFL. I won't go through all 32, but what I will do is tell you the name they have for the Eagles. I'll give you the other division rivals, and then where would Josh Sweat end up? Where would Milton Williams end up? I'll tell you where they have that on CBS coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas. Amy in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Birds take to the old Bird app. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. And what has been a busy week for the Eagles as far as contracts go after signing Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond earlier in the week. Yesterday was a quiet day on that front, but not so much on social media. CJ Gardner-Johnson took issue with something Darius Slay said on a podcast earlier in the week and voiced his displeasure on Twitter yesterday. Then A.J. Brown also took issue with something some Eagles fans said, and he tweeted at them as well, and now deleted tweets. Ultimately, hopefully it's nothing too serious once next week rolls around. And next week we could see some new additions to the team as free agency opens with legal tampering on Monday, and then they can officially sign the players next Wednesday. The Sixers, they lost to the Celtics last night by a score of 123-105. They were without both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. They hit the court again this Sunday to take on the Utah Jazz. And the Flyers, they also lost last night to the Winnipeg Jets 4-1. But today could be much more important for them as the NHL trade deadline is approaching today at 3 p.m. There's already rumors swirling on Twitter about some guys that could be on their way out. We'll keep you updated all show long, all day long, right here on the home of the Flyers with anything that comes down the pike with the trade deadline approaching. This update was brought to you by the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Drive high, get a DUI. A message from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia sports.
Touchdown! Saquon Barkley! Into the second deck, Bryce Harper! Shoots!
Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, before we get to this this article of the CBS Sports list of free agents for each team, right? The player that's going to go to each team. Randomly, Amy and I were talking during the commercial break about the Iverson run to the NBA Finals in 01. And then I asked the question, whose was more impressive? Iverson in 01 or LeBron with the 06-07 Cavs? And I'm still trying to have a hard time. I would guess, I think LeBron's, just because Iverson did have the sixth man of the year.
He did.
And Dikembe, who ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year that year, right?
So
yeah, because the name of the documentary that just came out was like all the awards except for the ship or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Like,
yeah, he was MVP.
So probably LeBron's more impressive.
Well, the best is, you pointed out, there is a carry between.
I blew Amy's mind.
I did not know that this gentleman was on both of those squads.
The glue guy.
Which is what is going to put LeBron's team over the edge.
He's a glue guy, but he did it in year 11 with the Cavs. Snow. Eric Snow was on both the 01 Sixers magical run.
Did you know that?
And the 06-07 magical run of the Cavs.
I forgot he was in Cleveland.
Yeah, and then he was a color analyst, and remember he fell asleep?
How could you forget him falling asleep? Mark Zumoff is making a valid...
Oh, no, this was with the Sixers. That's
yes.
right. Oh.
Are you serious?
He said did some stuff with the Cavs, too.
And you're like, is he...
He fell asleep.
I think it's concentrated.
Yeah, what is
really
it with the
hard.
front row seats at the Wells Fargo Center that has people falling asleep?
It's they don't sit front row, but you're having a gentleman talking to you, and you just kind of zone out there for a minute. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was an amazing time. By the way, there was one other player that I want to mention from that Cavs team. And look, so I was 06-07. I was 12, 13 years old, right? And I remember when this man came to the Sixers 2 years later. How about that Danielle Marshall?
Listen.
Dude could shoot the lights out.
He was
Danielle
on NBC Sports.
He sure was. I worked with Danielle. Danielle used to have the three-point record for a single game.
Yes, he did. And then it was beat by... Clay, yes.
Clay beat it.
Yeah.
Which fits a little bit more. Danielle was the first, UConn, star from Reading.
Yeah.
Obviously a local guy. Danielle used to he was on pre and post game, and I did a couple of shows with Danielle. It was tremendous.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
And I remember when he first came to the Sixers, I was like, oh, guy could shoot a little bit. And again, I'm younger, right? I'm like 15. I'm just like, let's go. Sixers basketball's back. And Danielle Marshall, in the fourth game of the season, I pulled up his game log. 4 or 5 from 3. And then he's inactive for the next 15 games.
That
I'm
tracks.
like, yeah, that makes sense. And then in the playoffs, he plays and goes 3 of 4 from 3 in the first game against the Wizards when they beat. That was Dwight Howard, and then it didn't.
That
go
was
well.
he had to have been one of the older players. He and E. Snow had to be some of the older players.
Yeah, he was
07.
He was 35 with the Sixers.
Yeah.
He was getting up there. All right, so CBS, they did a sort of a prediction of where each free agent, the top free agents for each team, the top signing for each team. So I want to go through that with you guys. So the Eagles, they put Poona Ford, defensive tackle. I think he's been on 2 teams early on in his career. Let's see here. I know he's with the Chargers. So Poona Ford was with the Chargers last year, Buffalo the year before that, and then he was drafted by the Seahawks, so that's where he spent the first 5 seasons of his career. This is more so the replacement to Milton Williams.
Right.
I looked him up, just to see how often he gets to the quarterback. He gets to the quarterback at kind of the rate that Milton Williams did. The problem is he was a starter, and Milton Williams was a rotational guy. But you're not going to ask him to be on the field 3 downs because he's going to be the backup to Jordan Davis. So that's an interesting name to keep an eye on. Obviously, that's a Howie Roseman kind of a move, a guy that not many people were thinking about.
Do you prefer a veteran there, or do you prefer a young guy there, in the draft?
Probably the draft, honestly, just because this is supposed to be the big D-tackle draft. So that's where I would look at first. The New York Giants, they have landing Mekhi Becton. Now, I have not heard much Giants whispers. Now, next week is the legal tampering.
I mean, I
so-
get why the Giants would want him.
Yeah, if they need an offensive lineman,
Doesn't
period.
that sound so contradictory to that
Linemen.
story we just read? Like he wants to be in a good situation.
Yeah.
What's good about the Giants right now?
Right, and that's the thing. Like, you want to go to a winner, and you want to go to a good organization, and not many people are touting the Giants as a great organization. Hello, look at your running back that just came from there.
And that you had a quarterbacks plural who've never protected with offensive line.
Yeah,
or
so-
your running back.
Yeah, so I don't know why he would go.
Yeah, it's like
there.
different when you're the fifth guy on the line and then you're the guy on the
Or
line.
if you're and you're joining the line, you're like, oh yeah, we're building something here. Look at I've got all these guys.
Nothing.
Right.
It's like being the nice that you're like, oh, I'm the nicest house on the block. Sometimes you want other nice houses out there too.
The Cowboys, this is who they're saying is like their top free agent that they will go after, is linebacker Robert Spillane, who's played for the Titans, Steelers, and Raiders.
I was going
now.
to say I thought like at least 4 teams.
And, Jerry Jones said yesterday or 2 days ago that they're not going to try to get free agents. To fix the
Selectively
team.
aggressive, Stephen Jones said last week.
Yeah, and then Jerry Jones said, we're not going to be aggressive. He then said, shut up, kid. Shut up, son.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to be
How'd
aggressive.
you get this job? Oh,
like,
wait.
it's unbelievable. Like, the
infighting is so great to witness. As a person, like as a third party, it's so much fun to watch.
I do wonder how many Cowboys fans are waiting for Jerry to leave. Not kick the boat.
To what?
To leave.
To leave. Well,
There's one way he's leaving.
Well, that's the thing.
To the coffin.
That's the thing.
Not to be morbid.
He's not leaving unless he's leaving us all. But I wonder how many Cowboys fans are kind of like waiting for that to happen. But let's just say leave, retire, off into the sunset. You got a lot of years left there, Jerry. The Commanders, they have getting Khalil Mack. Now, I think that's more logical than the Trey Hendrickson story that we read from the guy that kind of
Because you can
writes for
sign
NBC.
as opposed to trading for.
When you have a million
Yeah.
needs that you need to replace. So those are the four, like,
That one's probably the most I'm like, all right, that makes sense.
yeah, other than that, like,
Spillane,
sure, like, good luck, Cowboys, if that's like your.
like an okay linebacker. That's what you're thinking. Like that's going to get us there.
Now, this one makes total sense, and it screams Jonathan Gannon. They have Josh Sweat going to the Cardinals.
Yeah, that absolutely, yeah.
That's straight.
JG's like, I know who I want.
Like that makes total sense. Now, they don't have Milton Williams on this list anywhere.
Do they expect him? Well, it's not because they expect him to re-sign, is it? Or they just don't. They just
I think
don't
it's
have
just
him?
like.
I think he's prized more than people might think, though.
Yeah, I think ESPN had the projection 4 years, $96 million in Minnesota.
That's going to cost a ton of, like, I love you, Milton Williams, but like
$100 million almost?
I'm not paying him that
Good for you, fella.
kind of money. I don't know. But yeah, those are some of the names that they have out there. I not really groundbreaking stuff for some of these teams. Like the Eagles are going to run the NFC East again. Like that's what I'm getting. As this offseason continues, and what the team you already have in place, the additions or the extensions that they've already made with Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond, there's enough whispers that they're going to obviously get people because it's hashtag Howie Roseman.
Yeah.
They're going to run the NFC East
And it's a winning
next year again.
And it's a winning organization.
Yes.
People
TJ
want to be
Hushmanzada
here.
said it's the best organization in football. Love that.
He ain't wrong.
All right, we got another segment left to play. Don't forget, Mike Missanelli Show comes your way at 10 o'clock with Bill Colarulo and the great Ray Dunn. We'll check some more text messages coming up next. We got the key three as well. It is Kincade Salciunas, Amy in for John here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I don't understand the sentiment of we won a Super Bowl, so let's not do too much.
Talking about Philly.
10 o'clock with Bill and Ray. Looking forward to it. Always love listening on my ride home.
Yes.
Back to South Jersey.
I'm actually going to be stopping by. I have to go stop by the LaSalle bookstore to get some LaSalle gear for Sean because we're going to the game tomorrow.
Okay.
He's not having any LaSalle gear. And I found out yesterday, I went and did an interview, a sit-down interview with Fran Dunphy ahead of his last home game. And they're selling Fran Dunphy jerseys.
That's cool.
Which is awesome. And he was just like, I can't believe they're doing that. And I was like,
you're a legend. Like
he's like, they don't have Lionel Simmons. And I was like, I get that.
I love that.
I get that Fran points that out. But it's it's his farewell.
That's a Jim Lynam thing too,
isn't it?
Like Jim Lynam's a legend in Philadelphia, and he'll first.
He'd be like,
he'll
you
announce.
guys met Sonny Hill?
Right, exactly. Like,
come on.
You're talking about
Jimmy.
Talking about me, but we're not talking about Hersey Hawkins here.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, Jim, we see you on TV every single day. Like, that's why we love you. That's why we talk about you before Hersey Hawkins.
And I get people, just to clarify, Jim comes back and forth from Florida for the month of January and February. So he's back now. But that's why people were wondering where he was.
Where has he been?
He flies back and forth from Florida, enjoying his time down there.
He's enjoying
Smart
himself.
man.
All right, what do we have on the text line so far today, Gunner, as we have the key three coming up at 9:48 as we lead you into the Mike Missanelli Show.
Yeah, we got Joe in the Northeast checking in saying people who hate Slay must forgot the cornerback hell we were in before he got here. The guy has always shown up and played. I have a lot of love for the guy.
That's the thing.
There you go.
That's another thing. Like,
showed up and played. You went over the stats, the numbers.
Yeah,
90% of the time he played.
He barely missed any games, and people act like I get it. He would walk off the field, sometimes often. I understand, but people acted like he was like a walking injury, and he wasn't. And the texter, there was the name on the texter there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Joe in the Northeast.
Yeah, Joe in the Northeast brings up the cornerback hell. So let's see here. The previous season.
Well, that was like when they drafted Quinyon. I was like, oh my gosh, when's the last time?
Right. Here are your corners. Before the season before Darius Slay was signed here. All right, Vontae Maddox. This is when still people were like he was okay, Jalen Mills. This was when he wasn't as good. He had a very good Super Bowl season, but then after that kind of fell off a little bit. Craig James, Sidney Jones, that failed. Rudy Ford.
Stop it.
Crayvon LeBlanc, who
Crayon.
people were obsessed with Crayvon.
Miss Crayon.
LeBlanc. Jonathan Cyprien, Orlando Scandrick, who then left and went on Fox and just badmouthed Howie Roseman. I wonder if that clip ever circulates again because a lot of people were disappointed with Howie Roseman, but that one aged very poorly. Talking about how bad Howie was, and we have not seen Orlando Scandrick on anything since then, right?
Yeah, it always got me how he ripped the guy that signed him. He never got signed anywhere else. Like Howie was so dumb he signed you. Like what? It never made sense.
Yeah, made no sense whatsoever. How about the previous season of defensive backs that the Philadelphia Eagles had? Believe it or not, it can get worse. They had Nate Gary. Now, he was a linebacker. Why they have him listed as a DB?
He was a safety in college. They converted him to a linebacker.
Sidney Jones still, Crayvon LeBlanc, Devontae Ballsby, Chandon Sullivan, Dexter McDougal, Josh Hawkins. Those are your DBs.
Stop it. That's that's like those are answers to a Sporkle.
Yeah. Yeah. Ronald Darby was still on that squad.
Oh,
how could I forget? So, Darius Slay was
solidified a very shaky position.
Very shaky. Like, or no
5 years.
The ground wasn't even shaking because it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah,
like, the corners sucked. And so Darius Slay comes in and locked down one side. And how many times were we worried about the second corner when, over the last couple of years, think about before Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
The secondary was almost always at the top of every summer chatter.
Yeah.
What is the concern? Usually, its defense was almost always it. Linebacker, done. All right, well, rinse and repeat on that front.
Yeah.
Secondary, rinse and repeat. Every year.
There's a reason we know we didn't take a first-round pick, cornerback, since 2002 or whatever it was, because the other cornerbacks stunk and we always had to talk about it. Please do it.
And it was always like one-year pickups, and sometimes it worked. Patrick Robinson in this 17-18, that was great. Now, this is before Darius Slay, but like Steven Nelson was okay. right?
Yeah, and when you're looking for okay, you can't have okay back there when everything in front of them is not okay.
Yeah.
Right? Linebacker not been okay. So when it gets further and further back, you need that to be just a little bit better than okay.
And that's why I don't get the Darius Slay hate or dislike. Phil Brooks checks in. You just triggered my PTSD reading off those corners
honestly,
from pre-Slay.
Some of those names, I was like,
I hope
what's
those
happening?
names kind of give a lot of people the appreciation that Darius Slay was actually good here. What else do we have?
Yeah, with every one pro-Slay text, we got a million defamatory text. Slay made too many business decisions while he was here.
Stop.
If he made a tackle, he would come up limping. And even worse, whenever he would get beat, he'd be out for the next series or two and then come back in. Suspicious.
There's a lot.
Series or two in the game?
I don't remember those.
Well, if he got beat, the play's probably over, and then he came off anyway because the guy got a touchdown.
He hobbled off the field at times. That's true. I don't remember Darius Slay making a business decision.
I'm also never going to. I did not play corner in the NFL.
Yeah.
So if I am hurt at something and I'm limping around, it's probably because I am, and I'm never going to look at somebody and assume that they are doing it for show. I'm never going to be that person. That's me, though. I know some people think like, oh, you just got to suck it up and whatever. I feel like he did suck it up. He played 16 games, a majority of his time here.
That's the thing.
Except for the one he played, 12
games? Yeah, and that was when he had a surgery. And I know people put tinfoil. Speaking of tinfoil caps on, they put it on.
Oh,
because of the Matt Patricia thing, but still, I don't know. All right, give us one more text. I'm reading something on Myles Garrett as I speak.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick joke one and then a real one. Somebody said Andrew's right. He is thinking of his career after football, but it's celebrity boxing with CJ. And then somebody also checks in. Eric from Alden says, do we forget this is the same guy that would go on his podcast after games, say it wasn't his fault, throw his teammates under the bus. He's a great competitor on the field, not the best off the field. It's up in the air with him.
And I agree with the sentiment.
I think that's a good rational thought.
But when the players tell you it doesn't matter, and when the players speak highly of him, and you played me a clip during the break, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, after the Micah Parsons thing, was interviewed by local media.
I have it.
And he talked about how Darius Slay is a great leader. You have that clip? Yeah, take a listen.
He's a great teammate. No more to say. He's a captain of our team. We listen to him, we follow him, and just try to hope we get a Super Bowl this year to make sure that he can go out with a bang, being on his last couple of years and how we want to play it. But to take care of our vets and making sure that they know they got a safe haven there.
Yeah, so...
How does he start that? He's a great teammate.
And a great leader.
He's our captain.
All right, real quick before the key three. Myles Garrett. So he wants to be traded, right? Like, he's made that very clear. Andrew Berry, the general manager, said at the Combine, not happening. No way, Jose. He's staying here. So Myles Garrett, I guess, wanted to go over Andrew Berry's head. This was from Pro Football Talk. And Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, nah, I don't want to talk. That you handle that with Andrew, with the GM. Probably not good practice.
No.
If the owner of the team that you want to leave
doesn't
want to talk to you. Yeah, he declined the request to speak.
That is not a good look.
And if you're Andrew Berry, who's been out there saying no, I'm going, come on, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy, Mr. Haslam, do me a solid.
Yeah.
Like,
back me up here. Give me something.
Please. No, he denied.
Come out with any words at all.
He denied request to speak to
Do you want to
him.
chit-chat about, one of your franchise cornerstones, the Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
So if I'm Myles Garrett, I'm going, get me out of here. The owner doesn't even want to talk to me?
Myles Garrett has to be like, there's only one thing that people have been saying positive about the Browns the last 5 years is their defense. It's the only thing anybody... Nothing good about Cleveland Browns.
And Nick Chubb before he gets hurt.
There you go.
Yeah, Nick Chubb, that's been a positive talking point
for
them. All right, it is time now for the key three best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, today's best.
A couple of times this year, we've seen the lineup where we go, all right, that's probably your top 5 opening day lineup. Then, of course, the bottom 4 guys were guys getting their work in and all kind of stuff. So yesterday, they had a lineup that very well could be and I believe will be, as long as everybody stays healthy, the starting lineup of your Philadelphia Phillies. Trey Turner leading off at shortstop. Bryce Harper. John Kincade gets his wish. Bryce Harper bats second. Now I'm curious, what's the spin zone from John when he comes back? Because John was upset with Bryce that he was not batting second. Not upset with the Phillies. He was upset with Bryce. Bryce is now batting second. Bohm third at third. Schwarber, hallelujah, batting cleanup. Wow. Believe it or not, it can happen for hopefully more than 14 games. Nick Castellanos, fifth in right field. Kepler, sixth in left field. Real Muto, seventh behind the dish. Stott, eighth at second. Brandon Marsh, ninth in center. Now, I imagine they're still going to be platooning Marsh and Rojas.
Yeah.
A couple of people have said there's no guarantee that Rojas starts.
I've heard that quite a bit.
If only they listened to me last year when I said it was a bad idea to start a guy who can't hit, and then eventually you're going to have to send him down, which what did they do last year? Eventually sent him down. Especially when you say things and then you get upset when people hold you to it. And I like Darius Slay. I'm one of the very few people, I believe, in this city that side with Darius Slay, defend Darius Slay, and yet he does things like this and it makes me look bad. Like, yo, dude, how can I defend you when you're the one that does say stuff, and then when it comes time to being questioned about it, or when people do take exception with what you have to say, you run and hide. This is not the first time where he has protected his tweets. How many times did we rip Jalen Reagor for deleting his Twitter account and then reactivating it like 3 days later?
Oh, I know.
Like, it was annoying. And so this is annoying to me that you said something which I don't think you were totally off base in saying. You explained yourself, which is why I'm trying to find the tweet. And now you protect it? Like, come on, dude. You can sort of point out there's a reason why he's bounced around in the NFL. Like, that is a fact. That has happened.
It's a good player, but maybe there's some outside things that people don't enjoy about him being in your locker room.
Right. Meanwhile, Darius Slay is talked about as if he's beloved inside the locker room, but on the outside, people don't like him. It's a weird kind of dynamic.
It is weird.
Where you could just say, hey, both of you stop, right? Like, you have 2 kids.
Yes.
There's probably times where you go, both of you, stop. I'm not picking a side here. Stop. Why can't we do that with Darius Slay and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Instead, it's become, screw Darius Slay. I rock with CJ GJ. I don't care who started it. I'm ending it. I expect more of Becton here in Philadelphia than elsewhere, even though all reporters basically tell me that I shouldn't think that.
We think that because of the things you just said. 1, because Steen is here. He's already under contract. And 2, because the money's just not going to be available at the rate that Mekhi Becton can pull, right? So he would have to take a discount. Is it a discount for him? How much is he willing to discount going forward? Because how much do you factor in, I really love it here, I'm successful here, I enjoy it here, I hated it elsewhere. Do I want to do that again? Is that worth $7 million, $8 million, whatever the disparity is? That's a conversation. And I think when you read articles like that, I think that's where you hear, and I don't want to call it a discount because he's staying with a winning organization if he did.
All right, that is the Kincade Salciunas, Amy Fadul edition, Key 3 best minutes from today's show. By the way, don't forget, today at 3 o'clock is the NHL trade deadline. No, the Flyers are not buyers, but I imagine there are some vets. There should be some vets on the move.
Yeah.
And, apparently it's a seller's market right now.
There's a lot, yeah. There's a lot of guys that could be out there.
This could be a good sign as the Flyers continue their rebuild. So the deadline will happen during the best show ever today, but I imagine full coverage will happen during the Mike Missanelli show. All 4 hours NHL trade deadline talk.
I believe so. I did see the show sheet, 4 straight hours of it.
Coming your way at 3 o'clock. Amy, tell us about life-saving cancer research, please.
Remember to show support life-saving cancer research. Join me and our generous partners, Davis CPA Group, in making a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Cancer research saves lives.
So you go backslash. That's big.
What do you say?
I don't know. John. I think John just says slash.
Oh, I say backslash.
That's good. I like the backslash. It's nice. Thank you for coming in today. I
Thanks
really
for having me.
appreciate it.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Gunnar, great job all week. I appreciate your efforts as well, and Haley and Dutz and everybody that's been a part of it. Because, Connor slacked and went down to Florida. John slacked and went to the Caribbean. So don't worry. Some of us still had to, keep going. Once Shaq left the Lakers, Kobe was still there.
Right.
So don't worry.
We're still working this weekend.
Values.
Gunnar, you were Pau Gasol.
That's what they say. That's what they say. I'm a Spaniard.
It's been a great week. Everybody have a great weekend. Mike Missanelli